Well, welcome back everybody to the Four Nations. The playoffs continue straight away. We don't have to wait for 3 days or any of this nonsense. We've got so much action. We have to pack it all into these last 2 weeks. I'm back. My name is Trajan. I will be your host once again for today, but this time I am desking with Black Bloxer and Synergy to talk about Ruddy Painkillers versus Tempest Gaming, our other winners side semi-final. So, we do have the bracket. We're going to bring it up to remind you of where we are, what the lay of the land is here in the Four Nations in the playoffs. We had last time Venom Crest taking the victory over DMG UK. It was a 2-0. And Synergy, why don't you just catch us up a little bit on how that went down?
Yeah, I mean, the first game was definitely not super pretty. It was a really strong performance from Venom Crest. DMG just didn't really have any answers to anything, and I think the draft from Venom Crest was great as well. Second game, we had DMG come out kind of swinging. They got like 2 or 3 early kills to the 0. Unfortunately, there was just one dragon fight and it all went wrong, and then kind of we started to see why Venom Crest have been kind of in that solid second place, for the rest of the split. Yeah. They just cleaned houses, and took home the W.
He certainly did. It ended up being a couple of around 25-minute wins for Venom Crest, looking very confident heading into the winners' finals, waiting for the winner of this match. DMG, of course, falling down into the lower bracket. They will face the winner of Belfast Storm and Verzik later on in the week, and we'll see if they can bounce back and get themselves a losers bracket run. But we are going to take a quick look at our two teams, I should say, here today, and kind of the journeys that they have taken through to this match. We have Tempest Gaming and Ruddy, so let's move over to Tempest Gaming first. You can see it's a fairly one-dimensional, I guess in the literal sense, kind of journey block. So why don't you talk to us about Tempest season up to this point?
Yeah, they've just been overall our absolute strongest team. Tempest came out of the gate swinging and never really looked back. They have had absolute dubs throughout the entire season. They only lost a game by switching around their members versus Belfast, and Belfast is one of those teams that can bite back, and so Tempest, they messed around, they lost that game, but otherwise a completely perfect season, and if they hadn't have done that, could well have had an undefeated split, and they've just been so strong. You can see, compared to Ruddy, who have had a little bit of ups and downs, Tempest have been strong from the beginning to the end, and they have had growth as individual members. We've seen them sort of clean up a little bit of their team fights and things, but overall, Tempest have had a very linear way through this, regular season.
They did a bit of fricking around, and they found out at one point, but that was only one loss. 13-1, their final record, an easy first place for them. Why don't you tell us about Ruddy Synergy with a slightly more sordid journey here? We saw those ups and downs, as Bloxer mentioned.
Yep, sorry, my bad. I muted my microphone. Week 1. Yeah, you were fine. That's as I was saying, sorry. Week 1, they came out the gate kind of swinging, looked like really strong, kind of immediately getting thoughts of like, oh, this is definitely kind of a potential second place team. It then kind of went a little bit wrong, and then we saw that the roster swap where they, removed Tyron, they brought Ketso in and pushed Crisis back to the jungle, and then started to trend back upwards again. I think, unfortunately for them, like Venom Crest has just been on that rise the whole split, and they haven't really stopped, whereas Ruddy have had these occasional games where they've kind of had to bring subs in or whatever, and they've just unfortunately lost out on a game here and there, and unfortunately that's meant they've ended up in 3rd place rather than 2nd. Now they have to face Tempest because of that.
Yes, we did see the redevelopment, I guess, of Crisis returning to that route in the jungle, and then Ketso coming back in from those previous UKL splits really revitalized this roster, and they ended up 8-6, so that they didn't have the perfect split by the end of it. They ended up 0-2 against all of the other top 4 teams somehow, but it doesn't feel that way, right? It doesn't feel like they should have that record. They have been one of our most dangerous teams from week number 1. But before we get back into a little bit deeper into the weeds on Ruddy, let's look at the Tempest roster. Let's remind ourselves of who is playing for them right now. A very consistent roster. We haven't had subs. We haven't had any changes throughout the split that so many other teams have. But Black Bloxer, why don't you just remind us, talk to us about this team, anyone who stands out for you, particularly, obviously, with Tempest Gaming, there's a lot of options.
Yeah, Battery, Dunlossie, Kusai, Scream, and Buzzy, they've been super strong throughout the entire split, and there are a lot of names where, if you've been watching the UK for a while, you will have been hearing about them for a ridiculous amount of time. Battery, Dunlossie, they've been about for forever, and they've just been popping off as an entire team. They've had, some members doing a little bit stronger than others, and it's got to be Kusai that we have to sort of mention as that main carry. The things that he did specifically last week versus Ruddy, and just throughout the split, he's been just disgusting in the way he's been playing. It's been a lot of things like the Jace and the LeBlanc popping off on these high carry mid laners, but also if you ask him to sit back, play something more like a Syndra or an Orianna, something like that, he can still deliver those big ultimates during team fights. So overall, a really wide range of skills that this player has been demonstrating, and carrying when he needs to be that carry.
Yeah, he can do the lane stomping, he can do the team fight clutching, the early, the mid, and the late game. This guy's got it all down. You can see in the montage playing across from you that even when teams try to focus him, right, even when they will dedicate huge amounts of pressure in the early game to holding him down, he's still able to come through for it. But Synergy, is there anything else that you'd want to add talking about Kusai or anyone else from Ruddy that stands out?
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing to kind of add with Kusai as well is that there was that one game, and I can't remember who it was against, it was basically like 7-8 mid lane bans, and he ends up playing Talia, and still puts in an absolute shift in that game. And it was kind of like, I think a lot of teams' realization that, okay, we're just going to stick to banning that one strong champ, maybe something like Orianna, maybe something like Syndra, right? He's really proven that he is just a cut above the rest of the mid laners, and is kind of always a dependable source, regardless of whether he gets ganked, as we've seen in this clip so much from that Venom Crest game. Still gets away back into the game, still manages to kind of be a force and be a threat.
This Jace is disgusting.
That 3v1 is so, it's burned into my brain. That one where the man must be dead, and it's just somehow not possible. When it's Kusai on the screen, somehow it just doesn't end up becoming possible. He always finds his way out of these tight situations. So Kusai, a definite threat in the mid lane. We've been waiting, trying to find the answer. No one has yet succeeded in finding the answer to Kusai in the mid lane. But for now, we'll see if Ruddy does have the answer. Of course, Kets will across from him today. We'll take a look at the Ruddy roster in just a little moment. But they've got another kind of very mechanical mid-jungle duo. They have a strong combination to go up against them. In the Venom Crest game, we were talking about setting up that mid-jungle with Galul, with Bartholdi, as being someone that can match Kusai, especially in their early pressure. And let's take a look at the Ruddy roster in just a little bit more detail. So, Synergy, I'll pass this one back to you to talk to us about our third place challenger here today.
Yeah, sure. I think the thing I would always say about Ruddy is mechanically, they're all brilliant players. They're all individually very good. Sometimes where we've seen them falter, and this maybe we can draw the parallels with the fact that they've struggled against the teams above them, but have been consistently very good against teams below them, is they do rely a lot on their laning and just general team fighting and skirmishing prowess. Now, up against a team like Tempest, that's hard because you're not actually always going to get leads on them, if at all, in the laning phase, right? So I think here there are definitely things they can play through. I think Sin has been outstanding this split. I think Jamsu's been brilliant as well. Akaz has been consistent. We haven't seen anything, I think, huge from him yet, and that's something I think in this series, as I believe we'll probably be speaking about in a little bit, they need to try and get him going, get him kind of doing well against Bear Tree, because I think that's where, if we're going to look at Tempest, that's where if there's a weakness, that's where it's potentially going to be.
Yeah, we had our production staff at Project Gat working around the clock to find bad things about Tempest gaming coming up to this game. We had them working night and day, and what they found was Bear Tree, okay? We found some clips, we found some evidence.zip, okay? Like, Blocks, you want to talk to us just a little bit more about Bear Tree and possibly the exploitable nature of this guy?
So Bear Tree's been pulling out a lot of weird, I'm just going to call it straight up weird picks up in the top lane. Things like the Urgot and the Alawi, and they haven't necessarily been popping off. We can see right here, getting 1v1 by an Ornn. I mean, it happens to the best of us, to be fair.
We've all been there.
Is a disgusting champion. But it's just these picks that Bear Tree's been pulling out that are not necessarily team facilitators and are more looking to be individual carries, and then they haven't been. And that is an exploitable weakness for Tempest. The thing is it enough? Because I don't think that what we're saying right now is mind-blowing to anybody. Sure, we've come with the evidence. We've come with receipts to back up the fact that Bear Tree maybe isn't...
It's got accusations to beat now.
Yeah. But other teams know this. They've been playing around top lane. That's part of the reason why Bear Tree's been having so many L's, as we've just been showing, because teams have been focusing him right now. But if you are putting all of your focus up into that top lane, what are you leaving alone? What are you allowing to just scale into the later stages of the game? So it's a risk to focus top lane, but it is definitely something exploitable.
The pressure that he absorbs, as every Copium top laner has always marched out as their John of choice, is I'm pressure absorbing. They're permanently ganking me. You guys should be winning across the map. And the thing with Tempest, is that they always are winning across the map. They are always so many thousands of gold ahead. The only time we've really not seen them really far ahead coming out of this early game recently was against Ruddy in their last round, in the second round robin. We have a highlight package to show you how that game went down, and Synergy, you can maybe talk to us a little bit more about this game in particular. We see a classic Bear Tree pickup there, but this one was just all hands all the time.
Yeah, and this is kind of literally referencing what I was saying about Ruddy's kind of style earlier, is they just love to fight, and if they're better than you, they're going to beat you. Unfortunately here, they did end up 0-2 against Tempest in the main split, but this game really showed that they had a lot of potential to take it to Tempest in those skirmishy kind of fights. Now, as the game played out, you could kind of see maybe the macro wasn't quite as cleaned up, let's put it that way, as Tempest, and that's where they ended up kind of losing out. But in these early skirmishes, early fights, just put in a shift mechanically and absolutely outplaying Tempest at various points. So if we're going to see them do well today, and I really hope we do, so we get a banger series, it's going to be through lots of skirmishing, permanently fighting and not allowing Tempest to get into a position where they can kind of set up lanes and just get split lane pressure through Bear Tree, and then maybe size off in another lane. We're just going to get raw team fighting, and that to me, very exciting.
Yeah, for sure. I think the interesting thing for me, one of the interesting things in this game is Dunlosi on the Graves here did not look as practiced right block. So we've seen a lot of Xin Zhao and J4, a lot of these very kind of bridging gank heavy junglers, and we used to know Dunlosi for the farming, and that's very much a strong archetype now, but do you think it's worth him still kind of trying to pull this new archetype out and go into the Lilias and the Graveses, or do you want to see him pivot back towards the real aggressive gank hungry junglers in this series?
I think if you want to go towards something like just a Maokai, just gank, not really get involved elsewhere, that's a fine way to play the game at the moment for Dunlosi. But also, Ruddy do like to pull random things out, and having more avenues through which to carry, I think, is a good thing versus this kind of team. When a team is just full of chaos, they might end up shutting down any one of your carries and just having another one who can pop off. Dunlosi on something like the Graves to really be able to step up and fill the void that maybe gets creative if Kusai or Bear Tree are being shut down. I don't necessarily disagree with that either, so I think that there's a lot of flexibility in what Dunlosi can do, and whichever style he goes for, I trust in the way that Tempest play as a team around their members to be able to make it work.
Yeah, you can see where this game got to. 41 minutes in, we're around the Elder Dragon, and it still takes so long for this fight to even resolve. And I think the thing that really stands out to me in that final clip is Sin on the Sivir. He has been built up so far. He's hella farmed. He's been taking aggressive 1v1s. He's the carry Sivir has been unlocked 41 minutes in. And somehow Kusai manages to 1v2 him and Jamsu, this star engaged team fight game winning support, keeps them both out of the fight on the LeBlanc 41 minutes in, and then the fight is just unwinnable and the Elder goes over and that's game. So even when Kusai is falling off, his champion's not supposed to be as strong, or it's the carry potential's moved over to someone else, he's still having that massive impact, and that just plays back to what we were saying before about him, that difference maker in the mid lane. So with all that wrapped up, all of that kind of stage being set, I believe we are going to go to a small break right now before we're coming back with the draft for game number 1. So don't go anywhere, guys. This is for sure going to be an unmissable matchup here in the Four Nations playoffs. We'll see you in a few minutes. Welcome back, everybody. It's time for game number 1 in our winners bracket match between Tempest Gaming and Ruddy Painkillers. The draft is coming upon us very soon. So before we get into that one, I want to pick your brains about something specific here that became a bit of a pain point yesterday, which was the B1 Xayah. This was something that drove Sheikah all the way mad yesterday, seeing it come through, and we got into discussion about what's actually B1able. Is Orianna the B1, or are there actually counters that people have found to it now? It seemed like it was for a while. Are we still there? Bloxer, I'll come to you first. In terms of good B1s right now, we know that there is a bit of zaniness that can come out from either of these teams. They do have some pocket picks, but just generally speaking, are there actually strong B1s here, or is it just kind of you're finding a neutral ground like a Rakan or something like that?
I think it's more of a neutral ground situation. Yeah. I mean, please, for the love of all things holy, at least for Sheikah's mental health, do not be B1ing Xayah.
Don't do it.
That's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
There are plenty of picks, though, that are fine. Like Jarvan, you can B1 that. Cool. We are absolutely rolling with that. A big tanky top laner, something like the Renekton, the Ornn, all of those picks are absolutely fine. And then, like you said, the Rakan in the support role is also just rolling. I don't think you can pick yourself up anything in B1 at the moment that is just going to smash anything that it comes across. But there are a lot of neutral picks that you can still be finding for yourself. There are a lot of not neutral and definitely negative picks, though. So if teams could please stop doing that, that would be excellent.
Well, you know, there's only one pick that is a smash anything B1 pick, and it's Lars Fiora. That's the only one. That's the only one in this.
If you're Lars and you're B1ing Fiora, I respect that. Anything else, please stop.
Just please don't do it to us. Okay, we are getting into the draft nice and quick. We're here, both teams raring to go. And let's see what the bans are going to draw here. So it looks like potentially we have the Draven away from Scream. And now we haven't touched directly on Scream versus Sin, but I'm sure we will as this series continues, because this is a very important matchup. And we don't tend to see heavy bot lane bans anymore, Synergy, right? There's a lot of jungler focus. We have seen a lot of top lane focus and mid with Orianna and Syndra, right? But normally it's just 1 or 2 ADs, but I think we might get more here today.
Yeah, I think when one of those to highlight is Jinx. We have seen a few Jinx bans going around. I think it's often a lot more to do with the team specifically who are choosing to ban it. You know, we've seen it banned against Belfast Storm quite a lot, for example, just because of the natural pool Vanguard has. Here, the Draven, we've seen Scream play it once, I think it is the split, and he was very good at that champion. So I can completely understand why Ruddy don't want that on the field. It's also completely counterproductive to the style. They like to play, Draven's a lane bully. They want to be playing a bit more for lane. We've seen Sin play the likes of Caitlyn, of course, but Caitlyn not quite so good these days after the nerfs, and I wouldn't, she's definitely not going to stand up to a Draven, so it'll be interesting to see the Ori ban. I'm a big B1 Ori fan, I must say. I think that champion is great, but she's obviously gone. Zig's also gone. Seen that a few times, the split.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen it out of Sin, but clearly an option that can come through here, and blocks it with the there, of course. Yeah, fair enough. Hats off to the B1 Jarvan. Call out coming through right here. We see the Kusai focus from Jace and Nico, and we've learnt that you can't 9-ban Kusai. You actually can't ban him out. It's not possible. So just take the Jace and Nico away, and they'll just have to take what comes from that one. With the Jarvan coming through, the answer is the Xayah. It's not B1, but it is blind. Last time we saw the Sivir against it from Sim, but he still has plenty of options. And I guess we saw why they took the Ziggs away, right? You just don't want to get out of range like that.
Yeah, I don't mind the early pick of the Xayah right here. It's not necessarily Xayah gets countered massively in lane matchups, she gets countered by range in general. You've already seen that Ruddy banned away the Jace, so you're not that terrified of being just massively poked out. So I think you're in a fine situation to be able to pick yourself up the Xayah here. And the Sejuani is a good pick into the Jarvan as well. You've got plenty of lockdown CC. We're really just expecting a lot of ganks out of both of these junglers. Sejuani ganks early a little bit less perhaps than a Jarvan, but both of them are going to be looking to get proactive. The Syndra as well, nice easy blind pickup, and that is a locked MF. Now MF into Xayah, you have an okay time during the early laning phase, but that is a risky pickup.
Yeah, I mean, any matchup, right? MF is always, you have to commit hard. They've got the Jarvan combination, but you've got to be wary of the Akali that was just slammed into it, which is going to be threatening it in that backline. But I respect it from Sin, going for an out-of-the-box pick here, not opting back into the Sivir or anything that didn't work so well last time. The Jarvan Syndra, we've talked about this before, specifically in the context of Dunlosi and Kusai, but now Ketsuo and Crisis picking it up and should be able to do some damage with it. But yeah, that mid-jungle 2v2, I think, is going to be bananas synergy.
Yeah, I mean, I was a big fan of the Syndra pickup. It was, block speaking, I was thinking about, what's a good kind of next pick here, and I kind of like Syndra just because of the range advantage you mentioned against Xayah. Like, I think Syndra, she's not super long range. The QE combo is somewhat long range, and obviously get a Xayah quite out without her ultimate. She's just gone. Doesn't have any kind of dodging ability. So the Syndra and Jarvan here, you just put a really, really strong 2v2. They can exert pressure through the lanes, through the river as well. And that's something we need to see from Ruddy early, is see them take control of the jungle, see them take control of the Dragon Pits, force Tempest to come to them. And then once they do, Jarvan ult, MF ult, Syndra ults, just set up those nice skirmishy team fights. But I'm looking forward to Kusai on Akali. It's old pick that we used to see way back in 2021 summer. Guy is very good on that champion, and a very strong kind of top laner. You're gonna have to blind it.
It's kind of a normal one as well.
I love
normal
that
top
Renato.
laner.
If you rock in that Rumble, I think that this is a terrifying Ruddy composition. It's not necessarily a terrifying overall composition, but with Ruddy and the way that they like to play, this is still fine. You are all about the counter engage right here as Ruddy. Tempest are looking to go in with champions like the Akali and that Sejuani, and you're just looking to absorb that pressure, lock them down in a Jarvan ultimate, get them hitting each other with a Renata, and then just bullet time and shred through. I think Ruddy, with the way that they like to get really aggressive and skirmish heavy, can make good use of that. And actually, I do think that the Jax works well into this composition in general, and the Renekton in specific.
Would you say it's a Ruddy good composition?
Dude, the stuff he's been coming out with in the green room, we just knew it was going to go this way, and I have to apologize on behalf of Project Gap, on behalf of the UKL, just all of it. We can't condone this action, but...
You are technically just apologizing on behalf of me, right?
Yes.
Kind of how this is working.
Someone's got to apologize.
We'll get Markin, don't worry.
Someone's got to apologize to you, bro. You're clearly not going to do it for yourself. So, okay. Right, so we have... this top lane matchup is very interesting because Beartree has been forced onto a normal champion, which is fascinating. He's not gone for something of Beartree special counter. Even the blinds, he's gone for things like Alawi and and kind of off the wall bits. So clearly quaking in his boots at the possibility of this matchup. So that is interesting that he's maybe going to start taking it a bit serious. And then this bot lane with the MF paired up with the Renata, so they don't have like a tanky front line, they don't have a hard engager paired up there, but they have, as you'd said, the counter engage, right? The very strong counter engage blocks are for this combination. And then that got countered maybe? I don't know. Is it countered by the Blitzcrank? Is that going to be too much of a threat for them in this 2v2?
It's an MF. And there's a Blitzcrank on the other side. If you are not fancy with those feet, you're in a really bad spot during the early laning phase. The Blitzcrank and the Xayah also just work really well together. You end up in a situation where you step out of line just a little bit right here, and you can just get shredded through. But overall, the Blitzcrank, it makes or breaks this composition, I think is the real answer. If you are popping off with these hooks, it makes stepping into any bush a death sentence. It means trying to step up to any objective a death sentence. But if you're missing with it, Blitzcrank doesn't add very much just in general to a team fight without that hook capability. So you are laying a lot of pressure right here on the support, but you know, it's game one, you've got a best of 3, so it's worth it to throw something like this out right now and see what you can find.
Yeah, I think I generally agree on the points there. I think if you're going to make Blitzcrank work, you have to be really precise, obviously, with those hooks. The minute that cooldown is on cooldown, that skill is on cooldown, you know, you've kind of got this 15-second plus period where you just can't do anything really. You know, you've got your power fist. That's about it. What I would like to see is that Blitzcrank utilizes the fact that it has a lot of early game pressure to kind of draw people out of position, roam with the jungler, and then kind of put pressure on Ruddy there to enable them to kind of stem the early bleeding that we're likely to see, you know, against a Jarvan, against Syndra. While those champs are good together, they are relatively squishy early. So if you can get a Blitzcrank hook there, get them out of position, get a kill, you've actually just set yourself kind of a nice 30-second, 40-second period just to rest, take a chill, and continue scaling towards that kind of later game team fighting that they're going to want to do. I think also the Jax are actually quite a big fan of here. It just gives them an additional win condition, you know, that they can look for on the top lane if fighting's not going so well. Players are strong for, let Jax do his thing in side lane. There's a path to victory.
Yeah, it is going to be a pretty scary 2v2, potentially mid lane or top lane, right? Depending on where the junglers go. Sejuani Renekton is a classic, just kind of when Elise isn't good enough, you know, we'll take Sejuani and we'll do the same thing and we'll dive you. So we'll see if Akers is going to be threatened with the dive, if Crisis wants to assist or maybe wants to use that pressure elsewhere. And then the other thing that stands out to me just here is because we saw so much roaming into the mid lane yesterday particularly, and we've seen a lot of focus around the mid lane whenever Kusai is involved. There's a lot of jungles and supports appearing in that lane. We saw it in the highlight reel from earlier. One side has a Renata, right? And one side has a Blitzcrank. One side has a great threatening roamer with the Blitzcrank, and the Renata, is this able to roam as easily? Is it able to provide as much of a threat? Bloxer, I don't know if this is going to be able to match that potential mid lane where the focus always seems to end up.
I don't think that you're looking to really roam around right here as the Renata. It's not really the playstyle that we've been seeing, particularly either out of Jamsu anyway, and so I could see them just being like, nah, it's fine. We're gonna just ignore it and accept the fact that, hey, it's the Akali on Kusai. It was gonna go wrong for us anyway. We can just try to focus in onto this bot lane. Yeah, I mean, if there's a situation where you've also got the Blitzcrank going mid, then that really opens up potential dives maybe into the bottom lane. Sure, Xayah is relatively safe by herself because she has that ultimate, but pre-level 6, and once that ultimate is blown, she's a very vulnerable champion. You could look to try to engage there and just try to play more standard lanes. That's kind of the way that Ruddy, you know, they don't necessarily usually play like this, but if they want to progress far in this tournament, I could see Ruddy trying to pull out a little bit more of a standard stay in your lanes and just play the fights, because once they get to that skirmish team fight, that's going to be really strong.
Okay, with that, we are going to head into the game. You guys know what this graphic means. It's over to the casters for today. Rail and Brackish Brit, take it away with Tempest versus Ruddy.
Thank you so much, CJ. It is indeed Brackish Brit, joined by Rail on the riff, on the mics for this series. Tempest Gaming Rail still looking nigh unassailable in the UKEL. Is this the Ruddy comp to take him out?
It's definitely a deadly comp to do it with. I was getting very excited about the Rumble, but we don't get a Rumble. Erling Haaland on Jax had a really, really good game last game on this champion, so I'm excited to see it back. It is the new visuals, Jax, which is
Sin.
looking very, very nice.
Tempest already looking to leverage the potential Blitzcrank deadliness. Ruddy, however, are sitting way back. Stand well clear, dangerous machinery in operation. They will not be caught out.
Yeah, Buzzy looking for an early lead, you could say, but not finding really anything with a Blitzcrank. As of yet, there's still plenty of time, of course, and somewhat more we need to talk about is this Akali. Trademark pick for Kusai. Gets one of the matchups he's very familiar in. He's played this matchup a lot of times, especially in the past splits as well. Syndra isn't as strong early game as she used to be, but does scale really, really well. And just look at that early trading.
Remember, this is a range versus melee matchup as well. 5-point strike, chases down for the empowered auto attack as well. This is a champion that Kusai knows in and out. And I expect to see him play it to the fullest in this game. We see junglers both starting on their red buffs, so we're looking at opposite pathing here. Are you expecting Crisis to go top or mid here, since he's pathing that way?
I mean, I'd like Crisis to go top. You want to keep this Jax in the game as much as possible. And you know Renekton and Sejuani, their 2v2 is extremely scary, so you don't want to you don't want to fight the 2v2 ever, but you want to make your presence up there known, especially for the Jax.
Well, I was the perfect timing on the pause as we see the level 2 does come through for Sin and Jamsu. They're going to push that wave forwards. I'm slightly off center. There we go.
I'm in the sky. There we go.
It's all good, brother. But, well, not really much to talk about in the first 2.5 minutes of gameplay. We had some early prio in the bot side for Sin and Jamsu. And looking across to the other side, obviously, Dunlosi, a lot of people have had some very strong opinions about Dunlosi's actual presence or lack thereof on the map. Are you expecting this Sejuani to actually get anything done in these early levels?
I mean, for the early levels, they're just going to really just farm. The main presence they can make is literally top lane, which is very, very telegraphed. It's Renekton and Sejuani. No one in the right mind is going to try challenge that 2v2. It's just so free. So, that being said, that's the only lane I can see him going towards. Whereas for Crisis, he has a lot more options. But with bot lane being pushed in right now, and obviously he's just cleared Krugs, he only work his way up. So, he can either pass by mid or go towards top, but you know we're going top. You're going to get that 2v2 scenario we talked about, and that's not where you want to be.
No, doesn't really feel like it. This early game then, are you expecting some more explosive plays to come out? Where are you expecting it? Like, if it, junglers aside, because as you said, we're not expecting Dunlosi to do anything in this early game, real shocker. If one of these lanes was to really start exploding on its own, which one would you say it is?
Oh, it'd be bot lane for me. In mid. Well, I think bot lane, I've mentioned on both sides. MF, very early game. Damage is not to be laughed at. And last time Jamsu played Renata, he just looked deadly on this champion, so I'm happy to see him rotate back onto the champion. Buzzy, we haven't really seen him pull out anything like the Blitzcrank yet, so can we see more aggressive nature from him, other than his Alistar? I'm waiting to be answered on that one, really.
No, we shall see as the game progresses, but right now, of course, Buzzy picking that Blitzcrank to potentially mess with this Ruddy composition, try and get people to places they might not want to be, as we see 3 members already roaming in towards Kusai. The handshake of Jamsu flashes for it. Kusai, already having burnt his own, will take the L, and it will be Crisis picking up the first blood.
What a manly support. This is why I love this man. He will happily expend his flash if he thinks the play is going to be worth it, and goddamn, it's definitely worth it. You're shutting down Kusai early, given a bit of an extra lead over.
And this is just Jarvan Gaming coming out here from Crisis, already going to try and jump in on towards Bear Tree as well. There is the flash burned In the space of 45 seconds, Rail, we have got this Jarvan out onto the Rift, 2 flashes and a kill secured.
Yeah, very, very good play by Crisis. Instantly just taking that momentum from mid and then just moving straight up the top lane with it. And getting Renekton Flash is pretty massive, makes him a lot more open to your gank.
That Renekton Flash, yeah, going to be very useful for the coming minutes. Means that obviously Akers can potentially look to go aggressive. He already has the Sheen, so he is already going to be doing decent amounts of damage. But if we look to the bot side right now, as we were showing, Sin has fallen way down in CS because he took this early reset. And Scream and Buzzy froze the wave. Dunlosi came towards bot side, and while he didn't actually gank, it was still that amount of pressure that Sin and Jamsu could not step up to the wave.
Yeah, it's very good pressure. Sin should be able to catch up on this wave coming down, so it should be at an even state, so it won't affect him too much. But just that pressure alone, and obviously, of course, a Blitzcrank. Hold on a second.
Dunlosi is here, trying to protect Beartree. Now potentially looking for the counter-engaged. Crisis still only level 3, the Permafrost not quite procced. And everyone will return to their places. As Buzzy makes his way onto the mid lane, a lot of damage onto Ketsuo. The bailout will be used. The flash will get him out from that. It's a bunch of summoners expended again. Nobody goes down.
You're trying to get a revenge on the mid lane, trying to get a retaliation, but Jamsu just sitting and waiting in the wings. Again, in a perfect place and almost getting a trade back there with pulling Kusei into tower. It just shows how influential both these supports are going to be in this game.
And this is quite reminiscent of this previous game that we saw on the video in the analyst desk, right? Kusai pressured in the early game, and he gets assistance to get himself back to a winning position as Beartree is going to be engaged upon top side. Dominus has already been used, but this is neither of Akers or Crisis with the ultimate. Thankfully, it will not matter. Dunlosi, seeing that his opposite number is topside, going to get that first Drake.
Got a little bit dicey up there in the top, I have to say, though, with Eleanor and Mr. Akers having 0 mana left, only just having mana for the leap strike.
Buzzy will find it onto Jamsu. The root comes through as well. Heal was burned from Sin. The bailout will not even be procced. Scream uses the cleanse, but it's quite simply, it's not a heal. It did not give the stats. And at the end of the day, Ruddy just had more of them kill onto Sin.
And that's that early game pressure of MF. They threw everything onto Jamsu. Meanwhile, MF is still just wailing on your Xayah. Your Xayah is not allowed to play the game while trying to take down the Renata. And it proves not worth it because you couldn't take them down in time.
Right now, Ruddy looking in a pretty solid spot. 1.5k up. Sure, they did just concede the first Drake of the game, but it's a Cloud Drake. Not too huge. We've got an Infernal coming up next before the Soul. And of course, they can look to leverage that pressure elsewhere on the map. Crisis already has that kill. Sure, slightly down in CS to Dunlosi, but that kill is, and the assist is going to more than make up for it. And of course, we've got 40 seconds until the Herald is in.
Yeah, very, very solid start for Ruddy. They only lost their Dragon before their troubles of being 3-0 up. But they have gained a fair bit of gold over their opponents, so I can't be complaining if I'm a Ruddy fan. It's the best start they could have hoped for.
Now we need to see them convert it, though, and looking towards the Herald. Coming up in 15 seconds time. Bot lane. Every time we go bot lane, there is just the tension because of a Blitzcrank existing. But, I mean, as yet, Buzzy did manage to get a decent play in onto the mid lane, but it didn't result in anything. We're still waiting to see, you know, this machine is still warming up.
It is indeed. We're not seeing too much from this Blitzcrank just as yet, but we already know how volatile the champion can be. One pick at any stage in the game can completely change the dynamic. So we'll have to wait and see if he can find them vital picks for his team. I like this by Crisis. I like Crisis just constantly being around this top side, knowing that Renekton's trying to play aggressive anytime he can, and just trying to get Jax even further ahead. Because as soon as Jax gets to Divine Sundra, this gets a lot harder for Beartree.
Yeah, Renekton not going to have the easiest of times. Dunlosi, however, makes his way in onto mid lane, and there's no flash on Ketsuo. It's going to be open and shut for a kill on the mid lane, and Dunlosi could even look to try and leverage this into a Drake. Instead, Crisis is going to look to try and find the engage angle. Disengages immediately when he knows Kusai is coming.
Well, I like that little bit of chip damage from Crisis. It sort of deters Sejuani from going straight top.
Have you seen Dunlosi's health? That was like 2/3 of his health.
Yeah. The man got absolutely butchered, and he's not going to
He's
stop.
getting butchered again as Crisis shows up a second time, flashes out from the Cataclysm, but Akers comes forward. The tower will help Beartree secure the kill, and he may well be looking in onto Crisis as well. Flag Drag will get the Jarvan away. Beartree will relent, picks up the 1-for-1.
I mean, I think if you're Ruddy, you'll happily still take that. You're taking the jungle off the map. Jax already had the wave pushed in, so he's not losing too much out of this. He got the kill. Yes, he died, but he's got TP, so he's already straight back there. This trade is really good for Ruddy still.
Yeah, Beartree is going to take a reset here, but we can see his TP is almost back up, so if he feels the need to get back to top lane, which, considering the current wave state, probably doesn't need to, then he is able to do so, and Kusai continually shoving in, continually applying pressure in this mid lane, already has a 30 CS advantage as the melee part of this matchup.
Just Kusai things. That's the only thing to say to that. Just Kusai things. This man is a monster on
The desk said it.
multiple champions.
The desk said it.
And now he's got his most defined best champion. Like, this is the Kusai champion.
Still winding up right now, but it's Tempest. Despite the early Ruddy advantage that pick up that first Rift Herald, Scream needs to be very careful, though I'm certain that Crisis was spotted on that ward. We'll have to step back. Sin will be able to get a couple of plates, continue stretching his lead in the bot lane.
Yeah, and to note, Dunlosi is the one with a Herald here. So there's still a lot of gold what can be earned from this. Obviously, it needs to be before the plates fall off. And I think if anywhere they're going to use it, it's going to be mid.
Put even more gold onto Kusai? Absolutely. Dunlosi is indeed currently looking around the mid lane. Buzzy is present also, although all three of them were just spotted on the ward. Crisis is obviously here for that Drake spawn in 10 seconds time. We could see the first big skirmish of the game here. Buzzy looking for it, flash for flash. You're going to take that every day.
Yeah, happily. Syndra with no flash is so exposed, but talking of exposed, they're trying to find Kusai.
Flag and Drag not quite going to catch him. Ruddy trying to push out this mid lane so they have the inside line on this Drake. Jamsu looking aggressively as always. And now they will look to get this Drake started off. Dunlosi is clearing camps right now, but is not far away at all. Could come in if Tempest want to fight this one, and they're thinking about it. No, it looks like the ping on towards the mid lane. They're going to put down Herald, give that gold, as you said, to Kusai.
Yeah, it's the best moment they could look for. No one's around mid, they're all around Dragon. It's the best time you can funnel some gold into the Zakali, but you can have some friends.
Crisis comes in, but still at the point where this Jarvan is quite squishy. I would be worried about getting bursted out here as Dunlosi looking to start off the enemy blue buff. Crisis is in the area, but is down in levels right now. May end up being just a simple smite fight as Dunlosi will pick it up. Akers was there, didn't want to commit, however, and Dunlosi will be able to complete the hoodwink.
There's nothing more devastating as a jungle. Just seeing someone taking away the buff from your eyes and there's nothing you can do about it. Never a fun time. But nonetheless, they still got what they initially set out for. And I have to praise Ruddy with how they went about it, with pressure in mid lane, pushing it in so Kusai couldn't be the one to rotate and had the pressure of most of the team except for the Jax around the Dragon. It's a very good catalyst for how they played the early game so far.
Oh, definitely. First items are now coming through. We've got Mythics on tops jungles. Kusai, however, is ahead of the curve on towards Ketsuo thanks to that 35 CS advantage. Already got that rocket belt in inventory.
Yeah, and it's such a big spike for the Akali as well. Provides so much more pressure of knowing that Akali can close the gap that quickly, and you can see the
1.2K.
gold difference. Yeah, I was looking
All
at
of
that
those
right
plates
now.
funneled as well.
And even the top lane lead hasn't amounted to too much for Jax. Yes, he's ahead, but it's not astronomical. It's not to a point where you're like, okay, Jax is going to take over now.
Yeah, the early game started fine for Ruddy, but they weren't able to accelerate it really as Dunlosi comes in onto the mid lane. Again, they find the flashless Ketsuo, and they will take him down. The wave will run out, so Tempest are unable to completely take that mid tier 1. But that is Kusai picking up his first kill of the game.
And it's just one of them things, you know, they're going to keep coming back to mid again and again and again. You're a Syndra, you're not very mobile, you don't have anything to really dodge out this Sejuani, you don't have cleanse. And we're going to get pressure top.
Akers is not in... You're not in a good spot, buddy. You're not in a good spot.
Yeah, that lamppost has been diminished pretty damn quickly. Erling Haaland did not stand a chance, especially with Dunlosi sitting there.
And the fact that for the most part, Dunlosi has left Bear Tree and Akers just chilling on top lane. He shows up at the right time. And perhaps this is what, part of the Dunlosi effect almost. Does, a few bits and pieces here and there, picks up some objectives, isn't the most active in ganking. And then suddenly he's 2-1, showing up in top lane at the perfect time to get you that Keto.
Yeah, and it was just generally smart play. It's not something you're going to look to do early. You don't want to look for early pressure. Because if Java gets a counter gank, he can then, from that point, live in your jungle. And he's completely avoided that. Went for the early plays, and they're going for another play.
Jamsu, you are not getting out of that one anytime. And Kusai will pick up another one. I mean, noble sacrifice from Jamsu, I think.
Just a flick of a switch, and we're to 5-4 all of a sudden from 4-2. It just shows.
And 2k advantage.
Yeah, it just shows how fast Tempest can turn on a game when they need to.
Yeah, I mean, look at Sin. Completely zoned off from this tower. I don't think Screamer's even going to bother trying to take it down just yet. Next wave coming in. Might want to take it a little bit sooner rather than later, buddy. You do still have 2 people in that lane. However, Battery has 2 people in his lane. Cataclysm coming down. Both ultimates burned. He's going to get the kill onto Crisis for his trouble, however. And now Buzzy is here in the top lane. Akers flashes out, but Buzzy finds the hook. The Ignite will come down. Can't quite kill the Jax, but Dunlosi once again is right where he needs to be to pick up his third.
Yeah, and they get absolutely punished for it. They think they can take down Battery quick enough. But the healing coming out from the Renekton and the Rage Bar healing as well on top of it, able to outplay the 1v2, gets a kill, and then his team reacts to collect the Jax.
Jarvan ain't tanky yet. You are Gore Drinker, that's a bit of health, but in that situation, you were not able to survive underneath that tower. Battery able to pick that one up, and yeah, gets traded back, but that is another play heavily to the advantage of Tempest. Their gold lead goes up once again, now at 3k, and they're, well positioned to look towards this Drake. But as I say that, Ruddy, with a 3-man unit, walks in and 2 more waiting in the wings.
This is a bit aggressive from Ruddy, looking like they want to take this, but Kusei is sitting there.
And he finds Jamsu again with the hook. The bailout was there. The hostile takeover does a little bit. It's going to be the kill picked up. Sin trying to hit here. Akers taking so much damage. Kusai not able to find the execution. Dunlosi so low. Akers goes forwards. He finds the Akali. And that's the shutdown for Sin. And Tempest have to vacate the area quickly. And Ruddy will secure their second Drake.
And that was pretty much perfectly played by Ruddy. They lost one member pretty quickly, but it didn't matter because how they played back. They played for that counter engage. And they just had Tetsuo waiting on top of Sin for that Akali to reappear. As soon as they did, we got a collapse.
Battery getting hit with the Cataclysm again. Slice and a dice will get him out. Sin gonna get that tier 1 turret. Nothing Tempest can do to save it. Dunlosi again knows where Crisis is. And that's gonna be another blue buff stolen.
It's going to be more than just a blue buff. He's going to take the entire topside jungle and just say, you know what? seen where you were. I'm just gonna farm your jungle so you got nothing left, and just gonna build a bigger lead for this Sejuani. Sejuani really tanky already with the Bami Cinder, and I always forget the name of that item.
Radiant Virtue.
That's the one. It slipped my mind completely. They're already very tanky.
You get one.
Have a
You
second
get one
Herald.
for the series.
I get one. I'll take that. I'll take the one.
Anyway, Tempest, it's safe to say, still very much in the advantage right now. And Akusai, again, we're looking in and has already completed the Shadow Flame, whereas Ketsuo got the Ludens. Not much else. Both mid laners also opting for the Merc Treads this game, so giving up that little bit of damage from Sorks.
Yeah, and I can kind of understand on both sides. Renata is very deadly, so the Merc Treads do help with that. It does obviously also help with the Syndra burst damage, so it does make sense on him. And with the Syndra, there's a lot of CC on the enemy team. There's a lot.
It would probably be worth even if there were just the Sedge, to be fair.
Yeah, I'd say so. I don't want to be stunned for 9 years by Sejuani.
Yeah. We crossed the 20-minute mark. As it stands, round 2.5k the lead for Tempest Gaming, but as we've seen, Ruddy then not making that gold lead mean all that much. They got that last fight. They are up in Drake's right now. And the Baron, of course, is now onto the Rift. Do you think either of these teams can take it particularly quickly if they were to go, sneaky beaky on it?
Both teams are fairly decent with it. Zaya melts it pretty quickly. And you've got a Jackson MF on the other side, with MF having Infinity Edge, which is absolutely massive here. As long as they really play for the MF like this.
Just walks in with the Flag and Drag, will use the Flag and Drag to get out, rather, after the Cataclysm. Buzzy now looking to punish. Out comes the bullet time, though. The damage is there. Buzzy going very, very low. One more hit onto Scream would do it. He does not get taken out, though. The eventual kill onto Crisis. Kusai tries to make it happen, but Akers will have his number. And again, Ruddy are the ones that take the numbers advantage in the fight. However, Bear Tree wasn't there. He is able to shove in the wave. He is able to get some more gold that way. Does Unlos even die here?
He does?
Yeah, okay, he does. He's just really, really tanky right now. Thankfully, Akers has reached that point where, yeah, he's not doing too bad for himself.
Yeah, you definitely could say this Jax is a big boy in this game. And what I was literally about to say exactly happened. Play for this MF. As long as you play for Sin here, this game can be easy for you. You have a Jarvan to set up Sin perfectly. You just need the rest of the team to wait on MF or the Akali. As soon as Akali's in, you can play to just kill Akali.
Yeah, and it's been the case that Kusai has been that little bit too far forwards a couple of times, and we have seen him fall after that monumental early game. Sin gonna soak up all of this farm in mid lane. Sorry, Crisis, you're not allowed to have a chicken camp either, mate.
It's not allowed his jungle. Just feels bad, man.
Kusai, very aggressive, perfect execution towards Akers. The Jax not feeling all too worried about it right now. Has that Mercs of his own. We have seen the Herald summoned. It's in the bot lane. It's going to take quite a while. I would hazard a guess to say that is not making it all the way to the tier 2 turret.
To be honest, Ruddy don't need to be too scared here. With Akali having used her ultimate, you don't need to be scared, but there's a fight.
Got to watch out, though. They do find it. Glacial Prison misses onto Jamsu, though, and out comes the hostile takeover. Akers is trying to get onto Scream, but the CC, the damage is there. The feathers fly. The counter-strike will not be enough, and it's a double kill for Scream. It felt like Ruddy kind of scrambled to get to that fight, and they weren't able to coordinate an effective response.
Yeah, that's bang on. They weren't able to get on the same page. They weren't able to join collectively. They were just completely split up, and that's what Tempest did really well there. They caused disruption. Jarvan, you already used the Cataclysm on the Akali, so you don't have that tool left. And the Herald actually still made it.
Okay. Well, I guess Akers had to make it to the fight. We saw TPs committed by both the solo laners. This was clearly a fight that Ruddy weren't prepared for.
Yeah, and just really, really well executed by Tempest, and it shows how close this game actually has been. If you completely ignore the gold right now, you understand, like, this game, it can go either way. We've seen Ruddy leading, we've seen Tempest leading, then going back to Ruddy, and it's gone back to Tempest just now, so this game really is still quite open.
I just love the way Kusai plays. It's like, oh yeah, Job and Renata? Yeah, no, I'm going to Shogun Flip that.
I mean, Sin still hasn't died in this game. Sin is still primary target for Tempest.
And Kusai might be in some trouble. Perfect execution to try and get him out of that one, and he will be able to get out. That is an ultimate down, however. I don't think Ruddy are going to try out on towards the Baron just yet. And again, Jamsu muscling his way forwards, not showing any fear in this game. And Renata pretty well positioned to survive as long as there's the follow-up, that counter-engage that we've been talking about all this time. So, you know, if the bailout gets triggered, maybe he doesn't die.
Here's the important thing for Tempest as well, is because you have an Akali, Kusai can actually sit side lane for a long time against Jax. Akali was one of the OG counters into Jax because you can completely dodge his entire kit.
Oh, Jamsu gets caught by the hook. I think should be able to get the bailout onto himself. Might not even need it. Crisis comes forward, will flash for the Cataclysm, but the counter-engage from Tempest is huge. Sin is still up, however, finds the kill onto Scream, flashes away. Battery is going to go turbo low. That's a double kill for Sin. Kusei able to trade one back onto Crisis. But as we've been saying, this MF, you cannot risk to underestimate her. Kusai goes golden. Akka's trying to find that damage now, but it may be Dunlosi, the one that pays the price. There is a flash up and available. We'll be able to get out. Akka says, no chance, buddy. He's going to jump on forwards, take that one out as well. Buzzy has to flash to get away from this whirling lamppost of Akka's, and Ruddy are still down to Clown. They will fight you at every opportunity, and it's all off the back of that man, Sin.
And I was mad to think just before that, it was only a 2-for-2, and then Akka's arrives on the side with Shojin in hand, and that item is such a big spike for Jackson. You've seen it right there. The cooldowns were so short for him. He was able to just output so much damage. And as Jax is already showing its value.
And we're continuing to scale up. Akka's does get caught by the hook, but a counter-strike will bring him to safety. Scream and Buzzy here to potentially disrupt this Baron play. Kusai does not have TP, but Battery has hit the Dominus. He's looking to come in. Ketsuo going to try and keep him at arm's length. The Renekton is going to be forced out. The Flash Cataclysm will go straight onto the Croc. He will be taken out. Dunlosi now here. Buzzy and Scream still playing for this time. Kusei has arrived as well, and the Akali is going straight in. It's full-blown Chaos Theory. He's still alive, actually. Gets caught by the handshake. Akka's going forwards. The shutdown is there, but the Jarvan is dead. Dunlosi, when he knocked down the Baron in time. Scream trying to get away from the solo laners of Ruddy. Tempest do pick up the Baron, but at what cost? Is Dunlosi not quite able to get out? Sin goes godlike. Scream still on the run. The chase is there as Ketsuo is trying to find the damage. Buzzy will be able to limp away. And it seems like Scream will be able to as well. Ketsuo still looking. Still looking. Scream is going to turn it around, but it is traded back thanks to Aerie.
And it's still a worthy trade for Ruddy. I like the way they set up that Baron. Even though Jax had to go base there, they turn on the Renekton within a split second and catch him out of position. Beartree gets completely exposed there, and it just opens up the fight a lot better for them. Because of that, Kusai had to dive in. He had to dive in and be the focus, so he can't output the damage he wants to.
I'm trying to remember the stats here. Is this the first MF we've seen all split? I'm pretty sure it is. And
it is, yeah.
If so, is this just a Sin special, or have people been sleeping on it? Oh no, Jamsu gets caught by the hook, doesn't have to use The bailout, however, Buzzy gonna get bursted down. Kusai trying to step forward. The hostile takeover came forwards. Jamsu still ticking down, goes into the bailout. It's going golden from Kusai that prevents him from surviving. But Ruddy is still fighting. Dunlosi is falling like paper before the damage of Akers. And the TP from Bear Tree is going top lane as they give up this Soul Point Mountain Drake.
They get Sin, but at what cost? They use absolutely everything to narrow the gap onto him. By the time they take down Sin, it is too little, too late. The rest of the team have already arrived, and it's mad to think that Tempest are still up in gold.
Yeah. I mean, they did get the Baron. So like that, I think that probably contributes a decent amount. They are still 4k up. And yeah, the surprise in my voice, that is how this game is going. I feel just QED on how this game is going. 4k advantage for Tempest. It doesn't feel like it.
No, it doesn't feel like it at all. It surprised me, and I could tell it surprised you as soon as I said it, because I looked across, and I just seen 5k in favor of Tempest, and I was like, wait a minute. But it just got slapped. What's going on?
That doesn't seem right, Chief.
It makes sense when you look at the CS as well, though. With Kusai having such a big CS lead, the Renekton had a 30 CS lead till just now, and obviously the Xayah has still had a chance to outfarm Sin a little bit. It's not been by too much, but they've had time to get a bit of extra CS back in their pockets, which is obviously going to matter because of the items when they get to it.
Slow rail. It's a fair old while until we've got another objective coming up. Baron, just under 3 minutes. Dragon, 3.5 for that potential Mountain Soul for Ruddy. What do we want the teams to do in the meantime?
So we need more from this Blitzcrank. Like, Ozzy has had an okay game, but the hooks he has landed has mostly been picks like the Jax, the Jarvan. It's not been the picks what you've been wanting to pull in the end, because they haven't been able to be burst as fast as you want it to be. And
Kusai spotted out here. He's looking to go all in onto Ketsuo. Fails to find the kill, however. The burn down from the bailout. He does go down. Sin, however, trades it back nigh instantly. However, in the mid lane, Crisis gets caught out as well, and that gets given the scream.
As soon as we say about a pick needs to happen, they make two very important ones. Yes, Akali died, but it's so worth when you've taken away the jungle and the mid laner.
Mercifully for Ruddy, as I said, no major objectives available that would have... If Crisis had died just then, that would have been a real bad situation, especially if that had been as Baron was coming up. Right now, Tempest once again continue to look to smother out this Ruddy vision. I see one ward from Ruddy on Tempest's side of the map. And I imagine it's going to time out before any big fights happen around Baron.
Oh yeah, for sure. We've got Baron 1 minute, we've got Dragon 2 minutes, which is important for Ruddy, because that Soul actually helps him a fair bit, especially with Kusai. It helps deal with some of the extra bursts. Yeah, it becomes so important. And even Blitzcrank hooks, it helps a little bit with that. Obviously, it's not going to be the complete life changer where you're going to definitely live because of it. But things like buying a more on MF is the way to go about it.
And Sin still looking like that main angle to play around from Ruddy. Then again, I mean, we say that. Akers on 3 items with the Zhonya's completed. He is absolutely ready to put the game on the back as well.
And he deserves a lot of credit. Akers has been solid in this game. Yes, he's died 5 times, but he's died 5 times because he's been diving that backline.
He's been Kusai's kryptonite. He has always been looking, and he has been in many of these fights finding this Akali and forcing Kusai to burn cooldowns defensively.
I feel like if we ever heard team comms, all you would ever hear is Kusai, Kusai, Kusai.
Yeah. Or Kusai just been like, this Jax, man. I actually don't know what Kusai sounds like. I don't know. But Tempest Gaming immediately onto the Baron as it spawns. Right now, Akaz and Ketsuo are trying to play to warp this Akali. Crisis attempts to go in, will go straight down the bailout, will avail absolutely nothing. Tempest now going to try and peace out from this one. Nobody has died as yet. Sejuani waiting for that cooldown. Kusai drops, but at what cost, Ruddy, as 4 members of Tempest get on out with the Baron?
10 seconds on Dragon, though. They have the timer on this because Sejuani needs to base. Yes, they have the Baron recall. Yeah. Getting the soul for Ruddy is massive here, and especially knowing that Jax beats Akali now, with picking up the soul is going to make that objective even easier for him to do. So in the end,
yeah,
it's not a bad pickup for Ruddy. Yes, Tempest are still in the lead. They're still 5k gold up, more or less.
We've been saying it, though. It's not looked like it's mattered at all. Like, this might as well be just dead even.
Yeah, it really does feel like it, honestly. Like, so many of these fights have looked like they can go either way, and they have gone either way, and that just tells the story of how close this game has actually been.
Feels bad. Don't think I didn't see that, Ketsuo.
Exposing the poor man.
Look, it happened, caught in 4K on our screens. Like, I could try and breeze over it, but what else have I got to talk about right now?
Jax having new visuals.
No, plenty. No, there's plenty to talk about, don't worry. Look, I dunk on them out of love, it's fine. But speaking of, Ketsuo, who'd been put so far behind this game, is catching up. He's still a whole item behind Kusai. But he's got the Rabadons. He's got the Void Staff. That means quite a lot, and Buzzy is caught completely in no man's land, has to break a stopwatch, and it doesn't feel like the assistance is going to come anywhere near in time. Akka's potentially looking for Bear Tree as well. And Crisis wasn't even a good pick, because he's got GA now.
Yeah, they committed to get him, but they couldn't get him in the end, and because of that, Buzzy gets taken down for his sins, and I'm still really unsure on the Blitzcrank. Like, there's been so many times it's looked okay.
It's so feast or famine.
Yeah.
It's so feast or famine. If you can find, Buzzy, if you can find a hook onto Sin, and it's literally, at this point, I think only Sin that really matters. If you can find a hook onto Sin, get that MF dead before a fight properly starts, Ruddy quite likely just fall apart, because they lose that consistent damage that Sin's MF has been giving them this entire game.
And the small advantage what Tempest have in regards to AD carries right now is that Xayah has a GA.
Yeah. Sin is relying heavily on Jamsu here with the bailouts, with the other protective tools at Renata's disposal. Kusai looking towards the mid lane as well. Buzzy also got the eye out. Gotta watch out for a Glacial Prison coming forward. It finds the catch, but it's onto Crisis. In comes the TP from Akaz as well. And Ruddy are gonna look to fight this one out. Dunlosi is already dead. Kusai is looking for the good angle, but it's Jamsu that he finds with the Shuriken flip. And Tempest, they have to fall back. They have to leave in the face of this mountain sold up Ruddy.
And if they're not careful, Ruddy can actually steamroll this down. They can actually hard push this and look towards the end. So Renekton does need to base here.
Yep, still on the recall right now. He will get back to base just in time to see his mid lane inhibitor crumble. Right now, Ruddy might just be looking to end this one. There's 25 seconds on Dunlosi. Kusai goes in. He's going to need to go golden, I think. The perfect execution will get him out. Crisis tries to go forward. Scream goes up with the Feather Storm. A lot of tools burned. We're still waiting on that timer. Dunlosi up in 10 seconds. There's a wave coming in. Ruddy still have the end of the game in their eyes. Kusai still looking for blood as well. Dominus popped from Bear Tree. You've got to keep your eyes on Sin. Keep your eyes on this MF. All of these tools being used onto him. And it's Ketsuo that gets hit by the Ruthless Predator of Bear Tree. Crisis
And look at
goes
that,
into the GA. The engage goes forward. The hostile takeover is immense. Akers goes forward, flashes in. Scream goes into the GA, but he's going to wake up to a face full of Ruddy members. It's a triple kill for Sin on this monumental misfortune, and it's the misfortune of Tempest. He said it in chat, folks. Sin and Ruddy take the game and put Tempest in the hole.
Wow. That's the only thing I can say from that ultimate at the end from Jamsu. Completely incredible. Changes the complete dynamic, says, okay, we can re-engage, and Jamsu says, not today. Not today, you don't. And Sin
you could say he took over
untouched.
in a hostile fashion.
And it kind of falls back to one of my points earlier. Blitzcrank didn't matter. They completely ignored him in that fight and said, if you're going to hook us, what are you going to do, really? Like, I don't care. Hook me. Like, they just kept really well back. They played
Every
for Ketsuo. No, not Ketsuo. They played for Kusai, and then just instantly turned it on its head. It is a really, really well played game by Ruddy from the get-go. Despite falling behind on gold, it did not matter.
And obviously, we can shout out Sin. We should put Sin on a pedestal for that godly performance on the MF, but Jamsu as well. So much good stuff on that Renata. We'll leave the analyst desk to break that one down in a few minutes' time, though, while I go to get a drink. You should do the same, but don't go anywhere. More action coming right up.
Well, okay. Ruddy, handing Tempest. It did. A real L, a bona fide L. No Yasuo bot lane, no Scream top lane, whatever it was they were doing in that game.
That's
Tempest
a real
just
loss.
lost.
Yeah.
Guys, Tempest lost that game, and Ruddy won, and it looked, again, quite similar to their second round robin match for much of that one, right? It was another long one, it was a tough one, a hard-fought match. We'll get the scoreboard up so you can take a look at the overall scores and how this one went down. You can see a lot of deaths for everybody, a lot of big numbers on our screens right here. But Bloxer, give me a reaction here for Ruddy taking that win in the fashion they did.
We said that Jamsu probably wasn't going to be roaming as much as Buzzy, and sorry, we were wrong.
Yeah,
Jamsu on this Renata was looking clean, was all over the map, handing deaths to Kusai. We were talking about how Kusai was going to be able to come through and carry, and it just didn't happen, and it was pretty much all through the way that Jamsu was playing. I'm really impressed with the way that Ruddy played these team fights. They loved the skirmishing, which we've seen the whole split, but it wasn't just the scrappy skirmishing. There was some really well set up team fights as well.
Yeah, they kept that scrappy skirmishy style that has worked so well and really kept Tempest playing on their terms. But let's get Jamsu's player spotlight up right here. The man deserves it. What a performance. Synergy, tell me more about this Renata. We already know. We saw the roams from it. Normally this man's on the engagers, but he was doing plenty of work here today.
Yeah, and I mean, just going to follow up on exactly what Block said. Like, we were wrong. We did expect Jamsu to roam this much, but his roams were so well timed. Getting that early kill onto Kusai was huge. Going to see some of them now here as in the background. Just all around being there in the clutch moments, making great engages. Right, this flash.
Look at this flash.
It's just perfect. And you know, we were kind of sitting in the green room being like, oh, you know, we've seen this before with Venom Crest against, you know, Tempest, and now Kusai's can come back into it. But actually, the consistent roving and everything like that really put the pressure on. Obviously, Kusai still had a good game. He was still making picks all the way through that. However, I feel like Jams had a huge impact in just like snowballing his lanes and getting them to where they needed to be and laying into that chaotic style that Ruddy liked to play. And it ended up, for the first time, not working for Tempest. You know, they actually found a potential weakness there, and I assume we'll take it later. But you know, Akka's in that top lane did get to exploit battery a little bit.
Yeah, you know, we saw some of those early fights, some dive attempts coming through, and they did get pretty messy. And it was not the only thing that got messy in this game. Once we hit that mid game from 20 minutes onwards, we have a couple of replays of fights queued up here just to see the state of the match between these two players, these two teams, I should say. And Bloxer, just talk to us a little bit about Ruddy's approach to this fight and about Tempest, how they're going to react to this information that they've seen now.
Ruddy were just balling. They were trying to get aggressive in every single available situation. These ultis were just so clean. That bullet time every single time was doing so much, and you're playing a game of MF where you die once and you're up against Kusai's Akali in the mid lane and you die one single time. Obviously a lot of that is on great positioning, a lot of that is on Jansu just playing out of his mind as well, but just the positioning in these team fights, which is something I don't usually say about Ruddy. Usually when I'm talking about a Ruddy team fight, it's because all 5 members have gone in. Like, that's all we're doing. We're just going to run at them. But there was control in the aggression out of Ruddy, and that's, I think, what we've been waiting to see from them this entire split.
Yep, for sure. And it really paid off there. We'll queue up the second fight as well, just to continue this narrative. And Synergy, the thing that really stands out to me in the first replay and the second one is you can see Kusai just pinballing around all of these fights. He's still on Akali. It's still Kusai Akali, but ultimately it's not managing to get them over the line as it has done in the past.
Yeah, and we were kind of like, almost felt so unfortunate a few times for him where he'd be so close to getting a kill. I think there was one on the Syndra kind of near the Ruddy base, but you know, the locket comes through, doesn't quite manage to get it, has to stall out for a few more seconds. I mean, I think we're going to see the pinball exactly like you were talking about here. Over the wall, comes back over the wall. And I loved watching these fights because they were just like, everyone was doing the right things, but it was so kind of chaotic, but also felt kind of planned at the same time. Just highlight that there. Akka's flanks on Jax were brilliant this game. So many times finding clutch kind of follow-up engages, stunning multiple key people, and obviously he was kind of snowballing from the early game, so he was just whacking, you know, in the classic big Jax fashion, just smashing down over his head. And yeah, it was really putting pressure on Scream, pressure on Kusai. Another fantastic game from Akkas, and we said it in the pre-game. Hadn't seen a huge standout performance. He's been really solid the whole split. That was the game. That was the big one, and the fact it's against Tempest, even better.
Yeah, and this begs the question, guys, that as we said, Tempest wanted this, right? They picked Ruddy. They could have picked DMG. We all expected them to take DMG, but they didn't. They took Ruddy, and then I think they have elucidated somewhat of what their reasoning was. Synergy, I don't know if it was, you'd mentioned the green room, what their kind of reasoning was, but talk to me about how you think that has come about and why you think they did this, and maybe what you think is kind of dragging them down now that they've actually done it.
Sure. Just to clarify, it wasn't from them directly. This is just like background talking with other talent and stuff. But I don't want to throw Ruddy in the deep end. It wasn't their words, you know.
A legend, big legend.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I think they felt, for sure, or we think they felt that it was kind of a good stylistic matchup for them. You know, Tempest always been incredibly strong in lane. They don't really lose lanes, and then they just kind of slowly burn you out. And we almost saw it there, actually. The gold lead was still increasing for them pretty much through most of the game.
Every time.
Right up until the end. Yeah, it was insane. Every time we look back, plus 500 to Tempest, plus 1,000 to Tempest, and so on. However, this is probably like the best performance we've seen out of Ruddy. Of course, will they continue that? But they look like they're in brilliant form today. And if that's the case, actually, are Tempest going to be able to stand up to them in lane? Maybe that, what they thought was a stylistically good matchup, maybe not.
Yeah, doesn't seem to be working out as well, that's for sure. We do still see some of the shining lights, but I know you had a bit of a bugbear bloxer with Dunlosi this game, a bit of a problem with something this man was doing. You want to tell us a bit more about that?
So, in this game, it is definitely true that Sin was popping off with those bullet times. They were dealing a lot of damage. They were not dealing a lot of damage to Dunlosi because he decided to go for some AD boots and then just so much armor. Armor on armor on armor, and not a single magic resist item in his inventory. And yes, it meant that versus the Jax and versus this MF, he basically just sat there in the full bullet time and absorbed it and was like, I don't care. And then a single Dark Sphere popped up underneath that Sejuani and it exploded. It just died immediately. Yeah. And I feel like it was just a small misread of where the true damage was really coming from, the damage that he cared about. Because you can't engage as a Sejuani and just expect the Syndra to ignore you. That Scatter the Weak is going to come through. It's one of the primary disengage tools that Ruddy drafted for themselves. And it meant that every single time the Sejuani just popped, and then you're down your jungler around these big team fights near objectives that you really need your jungler for. And it's just a small thing, but I feel like it's a bit of a microcosm of a bigger problem that Tempest were running into, that they're not used to being dragged down into the mud. And that's what Ruddy love to do. They are so happy in these scrappy team fights. And Tempest, they looked like they just couldn't get their feet under them, despite, like you said, Sinji, they had a gold lead the entire time. They should have been ahead, and it was just small miscalculations that were just not helping them.
Yeah,
it was 100%.
Yeah, it was a big struggle for them, and it is an unfamiliar situation for them, right? We have seen them over the last couple of weeks start to have these shakier games, even when they are playing normal compositions. But they've always managed it. They've always got themselves over the line. There's always been a Kustai pop off or something that just kind of saves it at the last moment. They just have the better macro and they're able to wiggle their way out of these troubled situations. But against Ruddy now, a team that is willing to draft this, we said it in the draft phase that we like their composition. We like the single-minded nature of it. It's aggressive. It plays into their style. It synergizes well with each other. It's confident, right? I think we said, what did we say during the game? It was a composition that shows that they have confidence in themselves, right? To win this match. And that's what they had, and that's what they did. So you can't just sleep on them. You can't just come back from late. You need to manage to try and fix these issues, or Ruddy are not going to fall down. They're not going to get in their own way, perhaps, as much as they have in the past, and maybe some of our worst performing teams have. So that is going to be Tempest's problem to overcome in this second match. We'll see if they try to adjust anything, if they try to go off-piste again for Bear Tree in top lane, or if they try to find a more aggressive pick for Scream, maybe, to try and get him more active in that 2v2. But for now, we can start looking forward for this game number 2. I don't know if we actually go to a break between these games. I'm not sure if we do. I think we'll probably already have the draft coming up before too long, but production can stop me if I'm wrong. But we can just start talking about the draft for game number 2. So, from the suggestions I had, right? Potentially something else in top lane, maybe something aggressive in bot lane. Synergy, do you have any thoughts, any things you'd like to see out of Tempest you think could solve these issues for them going into the rest of the series?
I think we also need to, or she will get updated soon on the side selections from this game as well, because that's probably going to play into this a lot. I would imagine the teams are likely to swap sides. You know, Ruddy is going to want to take red. Sorry, no, it's not Ruddy's map pick. It's Tempest map pick again. I would assume they're probably going to want to go red side again. I think red side is good for them. The adaptation I may expect to see is looking for a counter pick Bear Tree against Akkers, rather than kind of going for that blind pick and then having to play a matchup that's, I mean, Renekton into Jax, it's a fine matchup, right? It's still decent for Renekton. But getting something that's able to kind of pressure Akaz a lot more, force him to blind pick, and because I think Kusai will perform, as we've said before, on whatever you give him and whatever fits the comp. So you don't need to give him it. Yes, you could lean into that as well. That's maybe another way we want to go. And as we do have the drafts, and Tempest are on the blue side, actually. They've opted to swap around.
Yeah, so we have gone back to blue side wins. We did see this resurgence of red side recently, but now they're going to have that first pick, that priority to see, and we'll see if Ruddy want to adjust anything in their bans as well, right? Because normally when teams, you see them win a game, they don't tend to change too much, but the MF ban?
Okay.
Come on now, okay. I said we might see a bit more bot lane bans than we're used to, okay, in this series, but the MF ban is crazy. Tell me why it's not inting, Synergy, give it to me.
I don't think it's inting. I think this is a good mid-series, same kind of mid-series adaptation, in that it was clearly a pain point, and I know we've kind of bigged up Jamp, so we bigged up Akaz as well, but Sin's ults were great. I think it was Octo mentioned that slightly earlier, and it actually just didn't, aside from just the raw damage, it creates this zone that you cannot enter while that MF ult was going off. And Sin's positioning was fantastic. They were never able to shut that down. I think it's one of those champs that you just remove because it kind of makes you play a little bit differently to how you want to. And taking that off the table is going to force Ruddy to go back to the drawing board a little bit and rethink their own game. I kind of get why it might seem it's not one of the kind of big power picks at the moment, but I think it's a reasonable adaptation and it makes sense in the context of the last game.
Yeah. So all the same bans, rotation 1 from Ruddy, and then we have basically the same, but the Jarvan as well added on. So really trying to stop Ruddy from getting comfortable in that composition, and they've slammed the B1 Orianna. So Kusai's going to have a comfortable pick, but this is not a free pick necessarily anymore. There are champions that can contest it in the lane. Bloxer, from what you know of Ketsuo, is there anything you're expecting to see him bring out here into this Ori matchup?
I think it's just going to be something standard, to be honest. It's Kusai. Sure, you're not getting one of those pop-off champions like the Jace or, the Akali that we saw in the last game, but I think you're still just going to want to take something standard, something maybe like the Azir, Syndra, either of those champions that can just sit in that lane, absorb the pressure, and also try to be useful in these team fights. Cassante, something that was banned out by Tempest in the last game and has slipped through, is just going to be that Syndra pick. Yeah, you can just sit in on that one and be happy. The Cassante is going to be huge, though. We've seen how much of a problem this champion can be, and if you can just get into the backline in the mid to late game during these big, just messy team fights, that's where you are absolutely living. And Akaz had a really good game, like you were saying in that previous one, so I think giving him a comfort champion in the Cassante could be huge. It's gonna be the Xayah again. I don't think Scream had that good a time on it in the last game, so maybe a bit of a redemption arc. I mean, you could just slam the Rakan right here. Instead, it's gonna be the Xin Zhao. Okay,
classic Dunlosi Xin Zhao.
Yeah,
so this one goes back a few years.
Yeah, we're going back to basics here for Tempest, and you can see with their bans that they're really trying to prep the Xayah pick, right? With the MF and the Ziggs continuing ban, they're trying to deny these outranges. And I'm wondering if Sin, if he's going to go back to the Sivir, which he had a decent time on last time. They didn't win the game in that second round match between the two, but it looked fine in the matchup. Or if he is going to find something else that can just bully the Xayah. He's just got a whole pocket full of picks that can ruin Xayah's day, and that's how they're going to win this series. Because it seems like Tempest are really married to this pick right now, as the Maokai comes in for Crisis in the jungle. So they went back to Syndra in the Ketsuo. Mid lane matchup, he's probably going to go down some CS, but that's probably going to be fine, right? It was fine last game, and we'll see if he can keep it going. Into the second round of bans, Rakan denied away from the Xayah, makes sense. The Jinx banned away as well as a potential outranger, and we'll see what the other focus has to be. We're looking for supports out of both sides, and then I think top laners out of one side. We're looking for Beartree's answer to the Cassante, importantly, and yeah, there's the Caitlyn. So a lot of bot lane bans go from Tempest. They want to protect this Xayah a lot, but this came up yesterday. This came up yesterday as a Xayah answer. Bloxer, talk to us about the Varus. We liked it yesterday. Do you like it here?
I like it here. It gives you a ton of range, and we were talking about how the Syndra also gives you a load of range too, and you've got a big, beefy front line in that Cassante, and with that Maokai, so you're just sitting way far back, chilling. You can have a lot of different builds. I think with the Garen, maybe you want to go for a more on-hit build, but I think you can still just go for a poke build. Make it so you just can't step into any of these team fights. What you're really looking to do is to poke down that Xayah to the point at which she has to blow that ultimate pre-team fight in order to just avoid some piece of poke and just stay alive. It's a really beefy and engage-heavy composition, though, out of Tempest. Let's see what this final pick is going to be for Ruddy. They do still need themselves a support. Supposedly, unless, of course, you want to move the Maokai down, this would be just hell.
Brutal.
Don't
the
do that.
Xayah and the melee support if they do that to them. It was hovered last time, but it is the Renata
Get it
locked in.
again.
I'd wondered if they would ban the Renata as opposed to the MF, and we'll see if that might be the key, right? We've removed one half of that equation. Let's see if the Renata was really doing all the work, as it felt like sometimes they were. So for Tempest, we have great team fight, engage front to back, love that for them. Pretty Billy basic on at least 4 of their members, plus the Garen, which can join the team fight, can do a bit of split pushing, bit of flanking. There's a surprising amount of options for this champion, despite its simple kit. And then for Ruddy, is this looking kind of a similar idea? We're still looking at team fight here, just trying to like work up to a objective and say we win.
Like sort of. I think it just doesn't play potentially quite as fast as they did last game. I mean, obviously Varus and Syndra kind of long range without the Jax in the top lane. Kassan's obviously just a beefy frontliner. I say that, he basically seems to function like an assassin these days anyway, with how much damage he does. However, you know, it's not Jax, he's not there just absolutely like bashing your AD carry's head in. He is going to be more of that frontliner. With the Maokai as well, you've got secondary kind of engage / frontliner. I'm expecting a slower game out of Ruddy based on this composition. I think it's still got the tools to do well, and I assume we'll likely see some kind of on-hit kind of crit Varus. Otherwise, they're going to be doing very, very heavily into magic damage. That's the only kind of issue I have around this comp, maybe, is that it's kind of easier to itemize against. Not the end of the world, it's completely reasonable. You know, Varus is enough split damage, right? But I would expect a lot more focus to go towards the bot lane in the early game for both junglers here and try and get leads there. Because I think that's likely to be kind of the carry point. We saw Sid last game. He had a fantastic game. Going to be riding on a high.
Yep. And
it's kind of going to be, I think Scream's going to want to get back in this game, and we all well know he has the capability to do so.
Yeah, it's Scream is an interesting one for me because we've been bigging up Kusai a lot, and with good reason, right? The man's crazy. But Scream, in the first few weeks, Scream was the guy I was looking at going, maybe this guy's the best player in the whole league. This guy is insane. This guy might just be number one. And he's been very consistent, right? Sometimes a lot of the focus is away from him. It's always focused towards that mid lane and sometimes towards the top lane. And then Scream and Buzzy are just unflappable down there. But when the team fights roll out, he always delivers. This is one of the few times where we've seen him actually stifle, right? By Sin and Jamsu specifically. They can match them in lane, and they can match them in team fights, which no one else seems to be able to do. So I think Scream as well is going to be wanting to get back into this series for sure. But it's such a tough matchup, right? You're into Varus in lane, that's not fun. You get outranged in the fights, and I don't know if this might just be a bit of a sleeper for Scream all day, unless we can find something else to put him in the bot lane. I mean, I would have said if they lose this game, they have to pick something else, but if they lose this game, it's over. So
yeah,
they'll have to save those picks for the lower bracket, if that's the case. So yeah,
Tempest lower bracket is something we're genuinely talking about.
I don't think I've had that thought the entirety of the regular split, so it feels very alien right now.
It felt like if they were going to lose, it would be in the finals.
Yeah. Like,
but no.
It's possible, but only at the very end. So, but now we have Ruddy threatening to upset that narrative for sure, and of course the winner of this match going forward to face Venomcrest Serpents in the winners finals, and that would be a banger either way, we know. But it's great to see that it's not just Tempest runs the gauntlet and we see who gets the honor of being blasted by them in the finals. We have two teams that are very much looking on par and ready to contest them. You just took a whole season to get there, right? We took a whole season of improvement, and now here we are. So before we get into game, I didn't have time to do this last time, but I want to get a very quick prediction from you, and we can just say on this game block. So I'll come to you first because you look more uncomfortable. So, do you think the series ends here? Do you think this is already 2-0? Or do you think Tempest back to basics drafting is going to get them over the line and push it to game 3?
Oh, this feels like such an int thing to say. But hey, I think Ruddy take this. We looked at the graph.
Yeah.
We looked at the graph, and Tempest, they've been flat straight across. And Ruddy, they've been rising. It's been up and down, but they have been on a rise recently, and the way that they played the last game, it was really impressive.
Yeah. Synergy? Thoughts? Feelings?
I am going to go with Tempest for this game. My kind of reasoning is I think they've leaned into Ruddy's style a little more in terms of like the champions they picked, like Garen Skirmishy, Zinzao Skirmishy, Orianna, just jack of all trades, and Xayah Rel. But I think the issue that Ruddy are maybe going to face if they continue to play the way they kind of have done, which is just like force fights, they're going to run into a lot of hurdles, or many more than they did in the last game. And that's actually going to, if Tempest gets a sizable lead, I think that snowballs massively. There won't be the back and forth as we saw in that game. So I'm going to say Tempest for this game, but maybe Ruddy over the course of the series.
Yeah, okay, well, with that, let's throw it over onto the Rift. Let's see who's going to take it. Can Tempest even it up, or will Ruddy take it away? Back over to you, casters, Brackish and Rail. Let's see this series continue.
We are onto the Rift for game number 2 as the Elk suspiciously lurking atop that cliff shall witness this struggle. Rail Tempest are facing, they are the ones being under the gun this time. That's a potentially uncomfortable place for them.
It is indeed, and I can actually pat myself on the back and call myself a genius here, because I called out the Varus yesterday, saying that it is one of the better picks into Xayah, and it's just it's not a fun time. Varus has such strong lane pressure, and obviously was buffed recently. So
Scream has already committed to the longsword 3 because he knows how much poke he's going to be taking.
Oh yeah, you have to at that point, because you're not in for a fun time. You just need to make it out alive.
Right now, all is quiet on the Riften front. Nobody going for anything particularly spicy. We've got some defensive vision put out by Ruddy there. If it's all defensive, it's all keeping to themselves. Dunlosi going to look to start off towards this top side. Crisis doing likewise. So perhaps we may well see this Xin Zhao make his way towards this bot lane. Try and alleviate some of that pressure that Scream and Buzzy will be facing.
And I do like the Xin Zhao pivot. It's a return to Dunlosi's most comfortable pick. He looked very, very good on this early in the split. And sort of dropped it down the line, but always looked very strong on Xin Zhao, very proactive. And always right place, right time. He always tended to zone out the AD carries when he played this pick. And, I mean, it's a good way about it, considering Sin was one of the big catalysts, along with Jamsu in that last game. And not to take any credit away from Akers.
But I mean, yeah, eyes are definitely on bot lane now, after the performances from game number 1. We have to see if Scream and Buzzy, as Trajan was saying on the desk, Scream was very much in the running for best player in the league early in the split. We need to see him bring out some of that pedigree if Tempest are going to continue their upper bracket run.
Yeah, and this is kind of what you expected with bot lane when you looked over. It's the pressure from Varus. You're not looking to trade into that early, and you don't even want to play that level 2 either. So it's just a case of forfeiting it, letting the wave come in. Not really going to miss too much either, so it's going to be whatever. You're just going to have to deal with it, really.
Dunlosi gets spotted out as he crosses mid lane, so Ruddy have that knowledge. Currently, Crisis is... exact location is unknown, but of course with Dunlosi stepping in, popping that ward down, seeing that chickens have already been taken, it's a fair assumption that he's on his bot side. Right now, we see this early push coming in from Akers. I do want to talk about the top lane, of course. The desk weren't as excited about it as I thought they might need to be, just out of the fact, Garen, but I suppose, maybe we're all bored of Garen after Alan pulled out at words.
No hype up Garen. I hate that champion so much, man. Like, just get him away.
But he's different, Rail.
Nah. Just get him away. I hate this champion so much. As soon as I seen it locked in, I was like, my hate came through for Garen. I was like, this man.
Dunlosi is going to catch this wave while Kusai gets a cheeky little early recall in. Should just be TPing straight on back to lane. Battery also step down into the river, just have a check out on what is going on. But the moment, fairly simple early game. When are you expecting, is there a key moment that you expect these teams to really turn it on?
I mean, I feel like Dunlosi will spend a bit more pressure towards that bot side, because he can't leave his lane against Varus and just hope they'll come out okay, because as soon as Varus hits 6, that lane gets even more scary. Obviously, Kusei is stepping up in terms of pressure this game, wanting to be in the face of the Syndra, trying to see if he can be one of the main catalysts for this game. Because he didn't have a bad game last game, he just wasn't able to do what he wanted to do. He got instant focus. So return to the control mages for Kusai.
That it is, and Ketsuo not having the very best time of it, getting heavily poked out as Kusai leverages that pressure, and there were flashes expended in the mid lane. Kusai and Ketsuo both having to use them. We should see a nigh instant TP back to lane from Ketsuo, catch that wave as it crashes in under the tower. Crisis will be spotted out on that river ward, and we did see a decent period of time where Sin and Jamsu were basically holding a freeze into Scream and Buzzy. They will now relent, and will go help Crisis with this first strike of the game.
And to be honest, this is exactly what I want to see from Crisis this game. I want him just to set up a tent at bot and just sit there for as long as possible. Just sit there as long as needed and just keep this lane strong, especially with how much Jamsu could do, especially when he gets his freedom to move around. On any recall timer, I want to see these two moving together if I am a Ruddy fan.
Look back into the top lane. Right now, at least, we're not seeing anything too explosive. Obviously, it's going to take a little moment for Garen to get some real damage. Kusai continuing that shove in. Crisis does spot out Dunlosi, however, so pressure alleviated somewhat. In fact, Akka's doing a big chunk of damage to Bear Tree, actually, forcing the way out, and the all-out will be used as well. Bear Tree does have the flash. He's not even going to use it, and when he does, rather, it's far too late as Akka's picks up the bolo for first blood.
And it's about sending a message for Akka's strong game 1 and a strong start to game 2.
Immense disrespect from Bear Tree. Doesn't flash until it's far too late. And now he's without TP. He's going to lose that entire wave to the turret.
Yeah, and because of that, Akka's actually gets a free recall on top of the kill.
Oh, Ketsuo might be in some trouble. Dunlosi looking for him. The knockup will come through as the outplay button is there. They're trying to make use of that bailout. Not quite going to be enough to save Ketsuo. However, it is traded back for Dunlosi.
Very almost. They committed a lot to try save Ketsuo, but nonetheless, they still get a 1-for-1. But they get a lot of summoners for this Tempest. They get the TP, they get Flash Ignite from Jamsu as well. So instantly, if I'm Dunlosi, you go to that bot lane. You know Jamsu doesn't have the summoners to get out.
Scream is currently only level 5. Sin has his ultimate. Crisis does not seem... Oh, no, there's the tick across to level 6 for Scream. Potential engage is gone. It's dead. Rip the potential engage. Right now, Ruddy, again, still the ones who feel like they're holding the, holding the wheel right now.
I mean, I like Jamsu even more just for that Aurelia emote. My guy. He understands my pains of not seeing Aurelia so far. The champion just has been non-existent.
We've seen an Aurelia game this split.
We have not.
Have we not?
We have not. It has been permaban from DMG and they're the main team that play it.
Am I tripping? Production, is Brack tripping? Akka's not going to be in a good spot as 3 people have to be sent top lane just so Bear Tree can drop the Demacian Justice. That's a lot of pressure being put in. Kusai, now, without his flash, they are looking for him. Command distance will allow Kusai to speed on out of there, but you're having to spend 3 people top to bail Bear Tree out after he solo lost first blood, despite being the one with Ignite in that matchup.
Yeah, exactly that. They need to bail him out. They need to get him back into the game. And to be honest, Cassante doesn't lose too much from this. He's still okay because obviously Cassante had the TP. Not really going to get too much of this, but they're committing.
They are committing heavily. Crisis is going to be hit with the bailout. It's not going to matter at all, as Buzzy will pick up that retributory kill. Meanwhile, look, that does mean Sin has a little bit of time on his own towards the bot side. Going to be able to put some more damage into that turret.
Sin's just having a fun time.
It's just punch chilling. And counter punch. Yeah, meanwhile, Sin is just chilling.
Very true. And meanwhile, Cassante's getting further ahead again because guess what? Garen doesn't have TP, so that's a double plating for Akers.
Well,
and
you
Akers
say
won't
that.
really get punished for it.
The 2 plates did go down for the side of Tempest with that death Akers took earlier. So, Bear Tree, gold-wise, probably a couple of hundred behind still, but not in an utterly horrendous situation. There we go, about 300 is the difference. We'll look elsewhere on the map. Kusai, again, has that CS advantage over Ketsuo. Will be that little bit up. Looking towards this bot lane again, though. It's Jamsu having that big effect once again. And for the time being, at least, Sin's just kind of chilling. Tell you who isn't chilling, that's Dunlosi and Kusai. If they look for Ketsuo, they will force the flash out. And that's just before the Drake spawns.
And like I said, looking a lot more proactive on the Sin Zhao pick. Looking a lot more at home. And into a matchup of Maokai, he will definitely feel at home. And Dragon becomes a very difficult thing to contest unless Kusai can get the angle. But
it's got to be careful. In fact, this is a very, very fractured engage looking to come through from Tempest Gaming. Scream and Buzzy walk in from completely the wrong side. Akers is looking for the chase, the Nature's Grasp, nor the hostile takeover find anything of worth. But that's a second Drake secured for Ruddy. Buzzy going to get a little bit of damage down onto Jamsu, but there's nobody to follow up, and we are onto the Chemtech Rift.
yeah, the Maokai just falling the tiniest bit short. If it did catch, though, you best believe Cassante is going to be
Somebody's
taking people
dying.
through walls.
And it's back to brawling against Bear Tree in the top lane. Akers, of course, still doing very, very well for himself. Crisis is towards the top side as well, but it is quite well warded. Bear Tree shouldn't be falling for that one. Looking forwards then. Obviously, we've still got a couple minutes of plates, but it feels like we're roughly in the spot. We should be outside of some, utter madness in the next 2 minutes. Going into this mid game, once plates drop, where are you wanting Ruddy to play around? Are we still wanting Sin to just kind of chill, get a couple of items, and then become the main carry?
Oh, for sure. But, I mean, if you can catch this
Kusai
man...
not having a good time. Again, the pressure reigns in. He's not taken down, though. The last tick of Ignite is what it takes. Ketsuo gets hit by the bailout again. Dunlosi is going to get taken out with the all-out. Goes through the wall to try and hit onto some slightly squishier targets, but you're not going to kill Jamsu, my man. Your healing is far from enough. And once again, it's Akers getting out of the lane to find these engages, and he'll pick up a second kill as well.
Oh,
hello, bot lane.
But I don't have time.
No, they're just going forwards. They choose to relent. Sin didn't have the wave in a good spot for that play. Bear Tree, however, has been left alone.
What leads my question is, Bear Tree might just opt towards the Stride Breaker, Hull Breaker, yeah, and just play more towards that side lane because he's not going to be able to have the same impact in a team fight as Cassante will. And because of that, the best option is just try to be an annoyance in that side lane. And yes, Garen can team fight, but I mean, does he need to team fight if he's taking your base?
Not necessarily. It would be the Lars effect. Quite simply. Right now, we close up on that 14 minutes. It's Tempest Gaming again, who have around 1,000 gold advantage. But it's not really tangible. You're not really feeling it, just as it was in game 1.
Yeah, I was going to say, it feels a bit like a mirror. It just feels like seeing it all over again of the game's very close. The gold is in favor of Tempest once again. But did we notice it as of yet? No. Did we notice it last game? No.
Not really.
A lot to be answered as of yet. Right now, Ruddy again having a very clean early game. Tempest had a couple answers back, but it's not been as strong as last game.
As you surmised, Bear Tree will pick up that Stride Breaker for himself. Gore Drinker completed for Dunlosi as well. This time, in terms of early item completion, we see that Ketsuo is the one to finish the Mythic first, but have to factor in the fact that Kusai did also, put 400 gold aside to invest in the tier.
Yeah, that
Actually, 750 really.
that hull breaker's on the way. I can tell you that. I can already see
Hold
the
up a
beginnings
second.
of it.
Winged plate does not build into that item. Oh, the ultimate comes out. It finds onto Kusai. In comes the hostile takeover, and there is going to be nobody left after that. It's one for Sin. It's one for Ketsuo. They'll chase Battery back under his turret. And Ruddy, as the smoke clears, they've got a Herald in their sights.
Yeah, and with Varus at Blade of the Rune King is a prime spike for him to be looking for that, and they're able to continue momentum with taking that Herald.
Gotta keep an eye in. There is the Magnet Storm, and it's gonna be handed to Scream. Trying to play, a little bit too fast and loose, perhaps.
That Marco ult is completely massive. On top of the Renata ult, they just chain so well together. It's just, they're completely isolated. There's nothing more will save them. They can flash, and the ultimates are still gonna hit them.
Yeah. Ruddy again. They now have that Rift Herald in inventory, that potential gold, if they can take a tower down with it. But again, just talking about the intangibles, this time, the fact that all that pressure is topside means that the dragon stacking will be slowed, at least. First Chemtech Drake going to be secured by Tempest.
Yeah, big takeaway, and they're getting a bit of pressure on this bot tower as well. Getting a bit of a 1-for-2 here. And Rakish, I can break your heart a little bit and confirm Moonplate does build into the Hullbreaker. I am a top laner.
Wait, does it?
It does indeed.
Maybe I'm thinking of a different... Has the build path been changed or something? Ooh, Ketsuo, you need to be careful, my man. You know what? I think it's too late for being careful. He's going to use the Unleash power onto Kusai and force them back away. The TP from Akaz came out as well, and he is looking. In fact, looks like it might be Tempest looking for a collapse towards the mid lane as well. Battery steps in looking for a target. Is he going to have any chance of it? Is able to take out Crisis, but the chase down is too good right now from the side of Ruddy. That's 2 for Sin. Look at how fast that Varus is attacking. Going to keep on hitting on towards this tower as well. This will be that first pickup for Ruddy. And again, the fights, time and again, are going Ruddy's way. What does Tempest need to change here?
I mean, it's more of a case of, like, Sin has the perfect pick here. Having Varus and being able to go on hit into that comp means Garen doesn't exist, means Xin doesn't exist. Even if Xin jumps on him, he has enough attack speed, enough lifesteal, enough damage to just tear him down himself. It's going to be a while before they can outlast some of the damage, but at that point, Xin will be at 3 irons. Xin will not care for anyone.
We saw this confidence in the Twitch chat earlier. Sin, don't worry, I got this, boss, he says. I believe him. I believe him, Rail.
Yeah, I think everyone's starting to be a believer now after that Fortnite win from himself. I mean, he's looking rather clean today.
Sometimes you just need a victory royale, I guess. I have played 0. Maybe that's why I'm so boosted. I've played 0 games of Fortnite.
Hey, it might be the case. Maybe if you start playing it, it might, your rank might start going up.
Nah. Gromp, you good? Did anyone see that? It was like squashed JPEG of Gromp.
It's just getting yoinked away from Unlosi here, but 2-man
that was
pressure
just
down
spite.
here, but there's no wave.
Meanwhile, the top lane is looking pretty juicy for the side of Ruddy. They will knock that one down. Ketsuo gets engaged upon by Dunlosi. Kusai looking for the angle forwards as well, trying to find the shockwave. Can't quite get it. In fact, it wasn't on cooldown. Ignore me. Kusai. Woo. That's playing with fire a little bit. Scream looking for the angle forward. Sin keeps on hitting. And it's going to be the Feather Storm, though, that puts him out of reach of Sin. That's a 2v1, and he's still nearly getting the kills.
Yeah, that's
still pretty scary.
Yeah, that's absolutely terrifying. The fact that you got the drop on him, you got the initiation to catch him off guard, and Sin still nearly turns it on his head. And now he's just completed Ginsu. That probability is just became even higher of a 1v2 potential.
Ketsuo is just trolling Dunlosi at this point. It's like, oh, you're going to try and take my blue buff? Nope.
might as well deny them if you can. If you can pick up these buffs and throw them away, you BM as much as you can. You take them buffs. You take them grubs. You say, nah, not today.
Ketsuo, right now, just chilling. I mean, this pretty much as was foretold, right? By the desk. Ketsuo has fallen behind a little bit in CS. How much does it really matter? Not all that much.
Yeah, all that matters is that he can keep up with the pressure of Kusai, and it's exactly what he did last game. He was on item down, kept up with the pressure because he just sat where he needed to be, and it's a similar case this game. If he sits,
he's not even item down though.
No, I'm just, I'm iterating from last game. But if he just sits,
I get it.
If he sits on the Varus, I mean, Varus is just going to be completely free.
Ketsuo looking for the damage on towards Dunlosi. The blast cone will get him out. We've got 35 seconds until the next Drake comes up. How eager are Tempest to fight this one, do we think? Betri looking for a potential angle in. There's the stride breaker forward. Dunlosi looking for the angle towards the back line, but Sin is completely untouched. Yes, there's the damage coming through. Crisis is down. Akkas could drop as well, but Sin is still alive. He is still healthy, and he is still hitting. The damage will not quite be enough to trade one back. And so, with Crisis down, Ruddy have to relent. But Dunlosi is very low as well. Tempest can't start off the dragon.
I mean, my question is, where is the TP from Ketsuo there? He should have TP'd so much earlier. He doesn't even use it. And it could have been the difference of trading a kill there.
Ruddy looking very willing to take this 4v5. Ketsuo is obviously a little ways out from the others. We are waiting for Akkas to come back up. No, Akkas is still alive. Crisis I'm talking about. You're not going to burst down the Gesante like that. Maybe able to pick up the tower, however. The catch there as the kill gets secured by Ketsuo, and Ruddy are going to open it right up. There is no ultimate on Bear Tree. He is going to flee. Dunlosi has started off this Drake, but he is going to abscond from that one. Tail between his legs as Ruddy come and claim their prize.
Trajan Castica scream. Because the man just got caught completely with his pants down by the Cassante. It committed so much in trying to open up that tower, it cost Scream's life.
And now, soul point for Ruddy. Still 1.5k gold down. But they're picking up towers. They're doing the damage. Now we have that 5-minute timer on the board. Chemtech Soul may be considered the weakest soul, but with how scrappy these fights are, it seems that there's going to be a lot of time with people below 50% health. You've got Jamsu as well with the bailout to specifically maximize the use of that damage. Speaking of Jamsu, might be in some trouble here. He does not have a flash, could use the bailout on himself, is not going to bother. There's nobody nearby enough to help him, and he will just have to take a good death.
And from that, they're turning their attention
not
to
so
the
good.
Baron.
There's a flash available on Crisis. He can get into the pit here, and the remaining members of Ruddy are going straight on in. There is the Nature's Grass coming forwards. Akkas, so tanky. He's taking no damage at all. Dunlosi melts, and Ruddy, despite being 4v5, are going to take the fight. Crisis does get taken down by the Damacian Justice, but it shows the confidence, the complete absence of fear from Ruddy that they are stepping forwards 4v5 into the previously undefeated, or basically undefeated, Tempest.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a feels bad for Crisis because he's not that tanky yet. So even though he jumps in and provides the pick for his team, he gets instantly blown up as a retaliation.
He does it knowing he's not getting out.
Yeah, pretty much. The man just says, yep, W.
Kusai looking for Sin here. Bear Tree has that Dead Man's Plate, ended up not being the hull breaker for Bear Tree. And Sin, again, is positioning fantastically, has completed the Mythic in that Ginsu's Rage Blade. Ketsuo might be looking like the target again. Good amount of damage coming through, but will be protected. Jamsu again says, I got you, bro.
And the important thing for Ruddy as well is, so Tempest fainted the Baron, they look to fight off it, and if Ruddy ever do that, Ruddy obliterate Baron. Like, it will die so fast. So yeah. Tempest need to keep on their toes.
Be like.
Yeah, Machine Gun Varus just gonna absolutely obliterate anything in his way, and I mean,
that was a
massive cooldown.
That was a feather storm. That is an immense cooldown taken away. Scream a little bit too eager on the ultimate button here. Ruddy could look to exploit this. They don't really want to be the ones being engaged upon here. I mean, you got Bear Tree coming from one angle, Kusai, Dunlosi from different. It becomes difficult to protect those carries, especially Sin.
Going to be very difficult for them to navigate this game, because as of right now, there's been a couple of times Tempest looked okay in fights, but they haven't looked stronger than Ruddy in fights, and that's the problem right now. And with Varus being so difficult to get towards, unless they find a good flank, or Buzzy gets a good engage, or a shockwave comes off and catches Sin, they're the main win factors for Tempest right now. They need to play off catching Sin. If they don't catch Sin, it's Sin to win. Sin will literally sit back and murder anyone.
If you are just tuning in, or if you are not familiar with the UKEL, Tempest Gaming, the team that dropped only one game in the regular split due to a questionable lane swap, is on the verge of getting 2-0'd by the Ruddy Painkillers, who have had some fantastic showings, but all 5 members of this team are bringing their A++ game in this series.
Yeah, this is a version of Ruddy which has been turning on the tempo really heavy. They have been looking so much better than from what we've seen them throughout the split. And it shows that when teams come to best of series, things do really change, and Ruddy have looked really impressive. Even if for some reason they don't win the series and fall to a lower bracket, I would bet on them making finals.
Right now, the most important thing is 23 seconds away. The next Chemtech Drake spawning onto the Rift would be Soul for Ruddy. Do Tempest want to let it go? Do they look to trade it for the Baron?
Difficult situation right now, because they're looking to posture in Ruddy. They're trying to find any angle of where they can
Buzzy here, by the
push
way.
them away.
Production, can we get a quick look down onto Buzzy? He is sat in the river brush towards the bot side. He had been sat there for a good 15 to 20 seconds, waiting for a potential angle in. Only when Ruddy starts to move does he potentially move. Nope, he's looking for it again. Looking for the angle in. He's looking for Sin. Magnet Storm comes through, but all of the peel is there. Sin is very, very low. He goes into the stopwatch to try and survive. He will not get taken down immediately. Beartree is eventually able to find him, however, and it looks like Tempest off the flank from Buzzy has found the angle. Ketsuo is able to take down Kusai. It's Buzzy and Beartree versus Ketsuo right now. We've got 40 seconds, long death timers. Tempest may have to give this up. They cannot step up to the Syndra.
And that was the combo they were looking for. That was the angle.
Oh,
and they're gonna fight
Ketsuo,
Syndra.
he gets caught. He gets caught, and that will be the kill in just a moment. Eventually, the shutdown, the ace for Tempest, and they will deny the Chemtech Soul across.
Not even wasted. Not even worth wasting that stopwatch at that point. You might as well just sit on the stopwatch. You're dead to rights. Nobody gonna save you. Not even Jesus himself. And
TP.
you're gonna get a replay.
Is it TP as well?
It's just
They got
the way.
Sin.
It's just the way they got to the backline and got Sin. It's exactly what
Yeah.
I said they needed to do. The play you highlighted by Buzzy just sat towards that bot side, waiting for the angle, waiting for the opportunity to dive on with Dunlosi's follow-up. And they even got the shockwave on top of him. So they got everything they wanted, perfectly executed. And from there, they could just mop up.
They weren't able to find Sin on his MF in game 1. He took a single death throughout the entire game. He's already taken 2 here. Again, highlight that flank, that very committed flank from Buzzy's Rel. We need to see them replicate it. We need to see them upsetting the apple cart of these fights, making it so Sin doesn't feel safe to just auto-attack.
And you can definitely say it's redemption from Buzzy. It didn't look strong on the Blitz. It looks way better on the Rel.
Akers and Bertri are going at it a bit. We'll see who feels more confident here. Bertri, I mean, they're basically going tit for tat, obviously. The Garen, with his passive, will be able to heal that back up eventually. But right now, all eyes are towards the Baron. As you said, Ruddy, if they take it, if they go for it, it melts in the face of Sin.
Yeah, Wit's End completed on Sin as well now. Having that extra magic resist is definitely going to help him from these Orianna shockwaves as well on top of that. They just need to permanently have Ketsuo sat with Sin, no matter what, in every team fight, every objective around Barons, Dragons, just to be there to push away the Rel, push away the Zinzao, just to be that extra bit of heal for him.
I'm ready right now, prioritizing the bot side of the Rift. Bertri has no tools to get out, is able to take Ketsuo for his trouble, and yeah, that's Garen things. That checks out. Akers going to take that reset, does have the TP up and available, however, and I think this Maokai is also doing a lot of work that we should pay some homage to, because it means that, face checking, not something that Ruddy has to do at all. Saplings will do all of that and more for days, as it's Tempest Gaming starting up the Baron. Akers is on his way. It's 15 seconds approximately on Ketsuo. They need to find the way in, though. The Baron is going low. And Losi uses the Crescent Guard. It's going to time out pretty quickly. Buzzy looking for the backline. He's not able to find Sin. Look at the Yasuo. He is free firing. Look at the health on the Baron. It is going to be secured by Tempest Gaming. But can they get out of this? Akers dropping extremely low. Kusai should be able to finish that one up. Delosi will drop down eventually. There's going to be 3 members of Tempest Gaming getting out with the Baron. And I think I saw like a 50 or something on the Baron's health.
1 HP to be exact. Like it was
legit 1.
I think so. I think it was that low. It was so close. Yes, Ruddy got in and got the fight in the end, but still 3 members with that Baron is a massive takeaway for Tempest. And Tempest already knew they wanted to take this off the table from Ruddy, slow down the game a bit for themselves, and just reconfigure of how they want to play this. And that was a really good take by them.
I do correct. Bertri did not end up with the Baron buff on himself. So it's Kusai and Scream that have it. Thankfully, your main carries having that. It's pretty big.
1 HP.
Literally
1. Wow.
57 and then 1. Ah. Oof. Thank you, production, for that, by the way. Shoutouts, production, go to as always. So, Ruddy, that's a big setback. We're this gold lead, it's still in Tempest's favor. Big shock. But now that they have been slowed down, obviously we've got a Drake in 45 seconds. Is the Baron enough to make it that Tempest can fight for this one?
I mean, I feel like both teams are just going to go all out for this. Tempest obviously want that soul, so it's going to deny it away from Ruddy.
Look at Bertri. Another flying Kangol is potentially here. If Ruddy do not dot their I's, cross their T's, ensure that Tempest isn't aware of what's going on. Bertri is going to massacre. Ketsuo. That's why he's got the Ignite. Dunlosi now looking for Crisis as well. Has to flash out. With a mid laner down, with a flash off of their jungler, Ruddy may not be able to fight this one.
Was Ketsuo buffering or something? The man just stood still for a while, and just a free pick for Bertri finds an angle for his team and just says, you know what? Goodbye, Syndra. Get hit with the outplay button. Have fun.
Oh yeah, it's like, oh, outplay button. I have one of those too.
Yeah, it just shows another reason why I hate that champion so much, man.
Well, right now, the gold lead, I think, is the biggest it has been in quite some time for Tempest Gaming. They now feel like they're the ones on the front foot. They are up 4.5k thereabouts, and Sin is the one who comes to clear the wave. He is completely alone, and Tempest will pounce. You can't step up like that, my man. 3 members will take his life, will take the inner turret, and it's all Tempest from here, it feels. Ruddy, what do we do? What do they do from here?
I mean, so far it's just been Tempest collecting pick after pick after pick, and it's just worked their way back into a massive lead this time around. No longer like the 5k region. It's just looking a lot more deadly, a lot more precise on what they want to do. Ruddy just can't seem to find the angle of what they want to do next, and they're gonna get collapsed on with Akkers.
Bye. I mean, you're not living through this, my man. He's gonna try and save as much time as possible. Yeah, a little bit of extra time with the Gargoyle Stone Plate, but that's 4 members. And that's another very open and shut pick for Tempest Gaming.
Yeah, it's looking like Tempest's decision to go blue side is paying off for them. The early game didn't pan out the way they wanted, but the way it's transitioned later stages of the game, they've committed to that combo. They've committed to throwing Xin Zhao in with the Orianna ball, or throwing Rel in with the Orianna ball, and then just letting the rest play out from there onwards.
We're looking still at Sin. He's on 4 items. He's extremely strong. But in all of these most recent fights, Tempest has found him and made him suffer dearly for it. He's still, we cannot understate, he is still extremely dangerous. Incredibly scary. If Tempest do let up on the pressure, do let their guard down, forget to focus him out of a fight right or as quickly as they can, there is still the potential for him to put this on his back.
There is for sure, and he does still melt anyone who gets in front of him. Just right now in this stage of the game, there's a few more damage threats, especially with Garen being as strong as he is as a champion. If he finds his way to Sin, he will obliterate that man pretty quickly. So all focus needs to be there for Ruddy. They need to just peel Sin, play for Sin. That's the game what you have to play right now. Again, they're going to have to wait for objectives, but 30 seconds on Baron, they need to be there to react for it.
Yeah, Tempest, of course, have the inside line. They have the mid prio. They will look to shove this one in. There's only one piece of standing gold left on Ruddy's side of the rift, and it's that mid lane tier 2 turret. Thankfully, their base holds strong for now, so you haven't got, an inhibitor to worry about. They are still able to partake in this fight. TPs are up for everyone that has it. Akkers is coming in towards the mid lane here. Sin gets absolutely chunked, but he flashes forwards looking for Kusai. It's going to be Dunlosi that is found instead, and the jungler of Tempest is gone. Sin had to flash, but he is still alive. And Ruddy may just look to pull the trigger on the Baron. There's no shockwave. There's no flash on Kusai either.
Well, it's 4 ultimates expended by Ruddy. Ruddy have used a lot of their tools, so they need to play this very carefully if they want to take this
See
Baron.
how far back Sin is. See how far back he is. Ketsuo gets obliterated. Buzzy is trying to play through the health bars of Ruddy are so low that Sin just can't play around them. They get mopped up, ground under the Tempest, and it feels like Baron is but an afterthought. They think they can end the game here and now, Rail.
They can end the game. The death timers are long enough. They can just work this base. They do have a minion wave coming up, and they can just tank some of the towers to carry on. Tempest really just turned on the heat in this game, and knowing that Ruddy had no ultimates there, they knew they could make this play.
They walk on into the base of Ruddy, and before anybody can come back up to bear witness, Tempest Gaming say, we are not dropping down to the lower bracket that easily, Ruddy. They will take game 2. We got a game 3 coming up.
We do have a game 3 coming up, and I mean, this is what I wanted from this. Being realistic, I didn't expect this to be as close as it was. Yes, Ruddy's last game against him was close, but this is crazy. Like, this is like finals worthy. I'd love to have best of 5 of this. Come on.
We'll see if it does turn into that. We've got another game coming up, guys. You know what? I would love to try and call it, but these games have been so close. It feels like small decisions back and forth. We look at that game. It looked so good for Ruddy. Right up until Buzzy found that flank. And then Tempest. They grabbed control of the game and they didn't release it.
Yeah, and that's accurately put. Soon as that play happened from Dragon, spiraled from there and was just able to carry on momentum, and some massive picks from Beartree on the Garen. Hate to praise the champion, but goddamn, the man was picking people left, right, and centre.
That he was. We'll leave it to the analyst desk to do all the smart talking, though. We'll be back with them in just a few minutes. Take a break, grab a snack. We'll be back in a few for that.
Okay. It is not over. It's not done. The Tempest ship has not come crashing to Earth. We're still in it. 1-1. And Synergy, your prediction that Tempest would get back into it, you got it done. Black Blocks are punished for faith. As always, unfortunate. Never believe, guys. It's never worth it. Never spend all your channel points on Ruddy, that's for sure. But what a game from Tempest. And once again, it was not easy, right? None of these games are easy. They're such a struggle back and forth. Such a great matchup we have here in the winners finals. And it's great to see, right? Such a close matchup between our top teams. But we're going to get deeper into this one. We're going to see a look at the scoreboard here first. And you can see, at the very least, across from a lot of the scores, still a lot of action in this one, Synergy. Still a lot of fighting, a lot of deaths, a lot of heroic moments.
And a lot of CS as well, yeah. It was kind of a repeat of the first game as far as just skirmishing non-stop yet again. And I was very excited by that. It looked great, and it looked like it was going in Ruddy's favour to start with. And then kind of, as we sort of expected, in that when Tempest were able to finally get a lead, I mean, we say this, they actually were ahead in gold most of the game. It was very rare that they were actually behind in gold, despite the, what's the word? I can't remember. Anyway, they were ahead in gold all the time. So it never felt like the momentum was actually going in their favour, but it was ahead. Very, very well done to them. And yeah, they just close it out towards the end, as I believe. I'm going to dive into some analysis replays.
Yeah, let's take a look at our first one here, Block, so you can take this one away. It's a dragon fight, about 27.5 minutes in, and this is where we see our first step from Buzzy really stepping up from the support role.
I mean, that was just a huge Magnet Storm, and then also Kusai, just stepping up, pulling people through with that ultimate, just doing Kusai things, and it was overall just kind of really well-played team fight out of everybody from Tempest that went a little bit, because, I mean, Sintra's a champion who does a lot of damage, and we saw multiple times there, actually, where Crisis ended up just getting a kill off of the execute from that ultimate, but in the actual big team fight moments, it was a Magnet Storm into Orianna Shockwave combo that just deleted members. And it was a pop-off performance that I think we were waiting to see, really, out of Kusai. We highlighted him before the series started, and in the last game with the Akali, he was, like we said, ping-ponging around the team fights, but not really quite finding those big, impactful plays. In this game, he really stepped it up.
Yeah, you can see in that fight, when they managed to find that combination, Sin is just removed from the equation, right? Scream is able to do the backline Xayah thing, while Sin has to deal with Rel into Orianna ultimate, into Garen just sitting as model on top of yours, and it's pretty tough to get away from that, right? But that does lead into another kind of interesting point of this game, which for me is the matchup between Beartree and Akers, because we saw the K'Sante blind, it came into the Garen counter pick, and then Synergy, we saw both of these players have a lot of impact, but certainly Beartree on the Garen sticks in the mind a lot as the game got later.
For sure, and I think early on, it was Akers that kind of had the advantage in that lane. Seen from there being a very early solo kill, I'm pretty sure.
There was, yeah.
And especially given that Beartree had opted for Ignite in that lane as well. So, getting solo killed by someone with TP when you've taken Ignite, never a good thing. However, in those later fights, it was Buzzy who was able to find engages, and kind of Beartree was able to just zoom through the fight, really, and just start Beyblading all over the back line of Ruddy there. And, the ultimates, they're just executing people from like 40-50% hit points almost. And by that point, he was just so tanky. There wasn't really anyone aside from Sin that was kind of able to deal with him, but then he'd just run at Sin, and Sin would pop, and that was that.
Yeah, there would be nothing left, nothing, just a spot on the ground where Sin used to be. But they tried to exploit Beartree in a way. Akers was able to exploit him literally with the solo kill, but Beartree still comes back and gets the first turret, and then he's the one finding these picks across the map. He's certainly exploitable, as we highlighted before. But Tempest always won those games. It was never enough to actually get the losses, and we can see still that you can't mental boom this player. You can get some gold out of it, but you cannot mental boom him, and he came back and was massive on the Garen. But let's scroll the clock forward a little bit to a Baron fight around 31 minutes in, and this is where, I'm trying to remember what happened this one. I guess we'll just have to roll it. Block, so you can take it away.
It's another just a kind of gigantic shockwave. I mean, look at that. It lands onto multiple members. In the backline, Scream is unfortunately getting chased around by a K'Sante, but it doesn't matter when the two main carries once again get caught by a massive shockwave. And I think this really leaves Ruddy in an iffy spot, where you give over the Akali, and you have to go running from it, or you give over a standard normal champion like the Orianna, which was B1 blinded, by the way, out of Tempest, and it's still fine too. Do you really have any actual answers into Kusai? I'm not sure at this point, because that shockwave, it was nasty.
Yeah, they were finding some pretty mean ones for sure, but I think something that we can flag up just before we get into the last replay at the end of this game is, I think this was a game, we were talking about it while we were watching the game in the green room, that it was a game where Tempest finally seemed to show some cracks in that team play. And Blocks, I think you can continue and elucidate this a bit more. Just that we don't always see them. Normally we see their team fights executing so well, right? But in this game, we finally saw they weren't always on the same page, and maybe it is the pressure from Ruddy getting to them a bit.
Yeah, there were a couple of moments, actually, where you needed to peel off as some members and join into the team fight. It was around a Baron specifically, where Kusai was just hitting on the Baron, chilling, not paying attention to the fact that there was a 3-4-man Magnet Storm that had just been laid down, served up on a silver platter, and he just didn't take it, wasn't involved in that fight. And honestly, it took some bear tree, I'm going to repeat that, bear tree pop-offs to actually pull this team through. It's impressive that Ruddy are pushing them that far, but Tempest not playing in their usual calm, collected way. I think Ruddy have them on the back foot, but Tempest is still showing that they can even, from that position, still swing.
Yeah, they absolutely can. And now let's run through to that last replay of the final fight, and Synergy, you can take this one away. I think we all want to pay close attention to the bot laners particularly, because they were such a great pivot point throughout this game.
Yeah, for sure. And first of all, it's a bit of a denial of vision in the pit from Ruddy, which on the face of it looks great. Bear in mind this is a 4v5 as well, because Dunlosi just died before. Bear tree. Do I need to say any more? Gets the E, gets the flash Q, ult gone, and then it's Buzzy with the incredible follow-up. It's a 3-man Magnet Storm again. I can't praise Buzzy enough in that game for being the main engager there. And then that just allows Scream to clean up at that point, because all the key players are dead. Speaking of which, a nice little highlight here between Sin and Scream. I would say, I think Scream had a much better game than the first game, that's for sure. But we can't count Sin out either. Sin was also playing very well that game, and we're seeing lots of great mechanics of him. That little duel at mid lane, I can't remember what time it was, early in that game, was a little sight to behold. But yeah, sure. It bodes well going into game 3. I think both AD carries are playing really well, both supports are playing really well. Everyone in this game, actually, so far, everyone is now playing pretty much really well. Dunlosi had a rough game there. Fine. He's been stellar the entire split. I would fully expect him to bounce back. Game 3 is going to be wild. Exactly. That's all that matters.
Yeah, and I think the thing with that bot lane matchup is it was early in the game, we knew that the Varus was we loved the pick into the Xayah, and we saw that value, right? Sim was something like 3-0-1 coming out of lane. Scream had, I think, a kill to his name, was a little down in CS. We saw the Varus taking control of that lane once again. And then once the fights came around, Scream was, they started to get more use out of that Xayah. He gets some room to flex and get those big blaze callers, and you see it all builds up to that final moment where he flashes directly onto Sin and says, no, it's over for you, okay? I don't care if it's 4v5, Bear Tree's already done this, and then the game just ends. So I think we certainly did see Scream wake up after game number 1, where it was a bit quiet, and we expected him to be a bit mad, and he is a bit mad, I think we can conclude after that game. Just a tad bit mad.
He's definitely screaming. He's definitely screaming after that game 1.
He'd be screeching at the screen right now. So I think
the camera doesn't want to keep you in here.
It was like, no, cut it.
Dad jokes have got too much.
It's too much enough. So we know the bot lane's firing. We know top lane is firing. We've seen some missteps out of mid and jungle. Weirdly enough, that has been such a strong point for both these teams throughout the split. But now the mid jungle is starting to show cracks for either side, and we'll see how they're going to fare in game number 3. So let's roll forward. Let's look at the deciding match. Game number 3, we've seen the drafts develop a little bit. We saw a lot of specific bans from Tempest, taking away the MF, right? Taking away the Jarvan. Now, they didn't deny the Renata, and they managed to beat it this time. So Blocks are, in terms of going into the draft now for the next round for Tempest, now that they've got this win over Ruddy, even though they had this bad matchup with the Xayah, do you think we're just going back to Xayah 3 games in a row and they'll just deal with the matchup, good or bad?
I think that is what Scream seems to be comfortable on right now, and if you're happy with that, sure, I could see... Do we know which side Ruddy are on? Have they...
I do, actually. Just give me 1 second. Carry on. I will then let you know.
I think that Ruddy are probably just going to look to continue in their full aggressive style. There's the way that they've been playing
Ruddy
so
blue.
far.
Ruddy blue.
It is Ruddy blue, so they have access to that first pick. That's going to force a couple of bans, I think, out of Tempest. The Jarvan looked really strong, and so did that MF. I wonder if you just continue to ban those out, do not allow those to still go through. Ruddy, I think they're just going to want to continue with being aggressive, and it's Tempest who I think still, despite the fact that they won in the last game, are more on the back foot in terms of the draft.
Yeah, because we saw that they kind of went back to basics, is how we put it, with their drafting. We've got the Orianna, we got the Xin Zhao back, you know. We did have a Garen in top lane, but it's Bear Tree. Bear Tree went back to picking fun things, which is kind of back to basics for him.
Yeah.
So they did kind of return to what worked initially, and that is a fairly linear, simple playstyle, right? They executed very well in this game, but it was still close. So it definitely feels like if they go back to that well, as you say, Block, so they might still be on the back foot, and they might be having to overcome the bad matchups that Ruddy do seem very prepared for in this game as we get into the draft. So we'll see if those bans stay the same. Ruddy, of course, did not change from game 1 and 2, and I don't think they really have a reason to change either. I don't think they've struggled with the individual champions on their own.
I might float Garen.
Synergy,
I think Garen maybe is something that's potentially worth. Yeah, in the same reason of like banning MF that Tempest did, right? Is that it's just a different champ that requires you to play a little bit differently. And obviously, Bear Tree just had a fantastic game on it. If you're not going to be, it's not something you're going to first pick, right? So you need to think about banning it at some point if you're going to pick a matchup that's not going to do so well into it. I actually don't mind if Ruddy go Cassante again. Can't. However, I think Garen maybe is a thing to consider.
That we had the Cassante doing well in lane, but ultimately being outperformed later on, and then Tempest go back to banning it on the red side, so they would have a potential option to find a counter for, right? The ultimate final red 5 counter, but they don't want to take that. So that's initially developed by Tempest, the priority there. The Jarvan ban continuing. Let's see what the Ruddy prio is. Orianna is open. We know Ketsuo loves to play it. And there it is. So we're going to take that one, and now let's see if Kusai has the answer, if he's going to go back to something aggressive like the Akali, or maybe try and outrange him with a Azir or something of this nature. Or I assume we're just going to see the Xayah
Wouldn't
first.
be surprised to see
Syndra
from them.
It's just going to be Syndra.
Yeah, it is Syndra.
Yeah.
I think Syndra is one of Kusai's best champions, I think, overall. Like, the amount we've seen from him in this split, and even previous splits as well, it's always been incredibly good, and it's one of the better matchups in Sawari, I'd say. You know, not super favoured, but it's definitely favoured a little bit, especially in the early game.
So
still the Xayah.
Yeah, and we have room for a Jinx here. It's been banned second rotation before, and we know that Sin is willing to pick these other things, and I wonder if they take something now. Just take something now before you lose more bans.
Do you give the Rakan over?
Ooh. Okay.
I mean, it has been second rotation banned. Ashe being picked up right here, I do quite like that from Ruddy. They like a chase down composition with things that have a lot of CC. Anytime you add two Freljordian champions together, it makes running away from it very difficult, and being slowed up, stunned up when you then have the potential of that shockwave is terrifying. Really interested to see if if Tempest do want to take the Rakan here and just slam a really strong bot lane, or if they're going to be happy to just keep playing around things more like the Rel.
Don't do this
that.
to me, Dunlow.
Don't do that.
Don't toy with us like this. But yeah, I think honestly, I would be surprised if they wouldn't be surprised if they don't. It seems like Buzzy doesn't prio it super hard, and he's shown that he's happy enough to play like the Alistar or the Rel instead, right? So we'll see what he chooses to go through. They probably do at least ban it away just to be safe, but we'll see if Ruddy think he's actually going to take it.
I think my thoughts here is maybe that you don't mind Bear Tree just kind of taking a safe blind pick as the next pick, and you leave the counter pick for support to ensure that you get the best possible matchup bot lane. You know, if that, it could go both ways here. I think there's reasons to do both. That could be one of the angles. The other angle I'll float is that we have seen a little bit of Ashe support out of carry builds. Is this a bait to not get the Jinx ban, flex us into a Jinx afterwards, and play an absolutely wacky bot lane? I would love to see that. I don't know if that's a great idea given Tempest have last pick. It could get absolutely ruined, but I would love it.
Yeah. I think we would be outthinking ourselves doing that.
Oh yeah, that's my entire purpose on the desk, is to come up with the wackiest solution.
Yeah.
Aatrox.
So, yeah, the Aatrox option is that strong blind, right? And then they've taken the Braum away, the Buzzy special, which is interesting. So maybe more defensive angle for Jamsu, not giving him as much agency as we normally see him take.
You don't get to move versus this Ruddy composition.
No, you get caught
and
by
trying
one
to
thing.
chase into them is miserable. And you've got a Vi and an Aatrox who exclusively have to run right at you in order to try to get anything done. This composition, with the Jax as well, this is a miserable, I'm going to repeat that, miserable composition to try to play into for Tempest. They are having to run into just a meat grinder at half speed at all times. You need something with either good backline access right here as the final pick to pair up alongside Scream.
Little hard angle.
Milio does work.
Disengage works.
Yeah, disengage. But you're
still throwing orange lights around. It's close
You're
enough. And Buzzy, so going into the I guess we can call it defensive because it is an enchanter and it's heal based and it's got the inbuilt cleanse on the ult. It does increase the range and maybe help you trade a little bit better, right? But I feel like even then, Ash Volley even Milio cannot solve this problem, right? More of a healing thing than a range thing.
The cleanses though, for Ash ult, for Braum stuns, Sejuani engage. That's potentially a huge amount of value you can get here. Maybe also go for Mikhail's or something. Maybe, I think possibly not. But I like the idea with Tempest. Also, guys, point out, everyone on Ruddy on blue side is a blue champ. Everyone on Tempest is a red champ. That is lovely. Thank you very much.
Enjoying the way that this is splitting out. It looks very clean. I worry slightly about Tempest in that they're playing, I'd call it a well-rounded composition in that you've got a lot of engage out of the Aatrox and the Vi, and then, I mean, it's a Syndra. That's fine, either way. And then you've got a lot of disengage out of the Kai'Sa and out of the Xayah, and the Milio. I just worry about that because although that's a good overall composition and it's a very Tempest composition, Ruddy have themselves a very focused comp. It's not as well-rounded. It's all about that disengage, or you Ash Arrow, and you just go all in. It's all or nothing, this composition that Ruddy have got for themselves, and I think that that's more Ruddy style. They'd love to have a composition that you know exactly who the hammer is. So if Tempest don't play this very carefully, I think they could end up in a little bit of trouble.
I think something for sure maybe I'd like to add to that is I kind of agree on the all or nothing. I think it's like you go hard or go home. However, with the Ashe, potential for an Ashe ult, you can pick your engage and choose not to follow it if it's not great.
Yeah. And
then just chill for 40 seconds, 60 seconds, especially late game, right?
Okay,
and then wait till that perfect one. I fully hear and I completely agree.
You can choose not to engage.
Yeah,
yes,
they
just
could.
That they won't.
Yeah.
So,
in the way that you could not make a dad joke, but
you're
is it gonna happen?
We can't stop it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pretend it's not going to happen. I'm not going to say it is going to happen. You'll have to find out on the next installment of Four Nations.
Exactly. So, Ruddy back to a focus comp. This served them very well in the first game, right? They were playing very well together. And even in that second game, they were still, I think, playing better together overall. Some of the picks that then came through in the macro late game let them down a little bit and let Tempest get hold of it. And they did have some great team fights to clutch it out. But Ruddy are playing very well as a team. And I think this is a comp that gives them that ability. I like the fact they went for the Jax instead of the Malphite as well, because it would have been a little light on damage maybe, and I think Akers on that Jax game 1 was a bit of a tour de force, and I'm glad to see him back on that. So once again, this top lane matchup is going to be very interesting. There's big solo kill potential on either side, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. And then I think the other side for me is once again this bot lane, where it's just been so interesting to see Scream and Buzzy actually pressured for once ever in their lives. And Jamsu particularly has been absolutely crazy. The fact that he's now on the Braum, and we said, oh, he's on Renata, he's not going to roam. He's not going to roam on Renata. And then what do we know? And I say, oh, he's on Braum. He's not going to find the aggressive engages on Braum. So we'll see if he does. And we'll see if he just bucks the trends once again. Yeah, I honestly do as well.
I think
Jamsu is a Jamsu guarantee.
Just to add one thing as well, I like Ruddy's comp insofar as you pick this Jax into Aatrox, which is going to be a relatively volatile matchup, but the rest of your lanes are kind of appropriately safe. In that, I've just lost the champ. There we go. Ashe Braum can be very defensive, nice and easy. I don't think Milio, Xayah they're not going to press you, that's sure. I mean, you're picking Milio for disengage. So. There's absolutely potential to 2v2, but it's not going to be a high pressure lane. Orianna mid, very happy just farming and scaling, and in fact is probably going to want to play a little bit safer against Syndra just to avoid the Vi ganks and the Syndra, Syndra ganks. So I would not be surprised, given it's Sejuani as well. We see a lot of focus from Ruddy in top lane. And if you get that Jax snowballing, I really worry for Tempest, because I don't think they have a good answer to Jax.
Yeah, that's Blood Push is going to be terrifying. The team fights as well. I think it's going to be top or mid. I think this, my gut tells me we might go back to just mid lane party every day, because we have two immobile mid laners. We've got two junglers that can have great gank paths into mid. And we might just throw everybody in the mid lane again and see what it works. And that has been the most exploitable lane from both of them so far today. So we'll see what the focus is going to be. We are going to get into the game very quickly. I say very quickly, instantaneously, for the deciding match. Tempest Gaming versus Ruddy for the chance to move on and face Venom Crest Serpents. Over to you, casters. Take it away. It's Rail and Brackish Brit once again.
For all the marbles, Rails. for the right to continue in the upper bracket. For pride, for bragging rights, it's game 3. I don't know, that was a terrible intro. I'm ashamed.
It's all good. It's all good. It happens to the best of us. But, Ruddy, drafting out free Frey or getting that TFT buff, that's what their aim is. They do have that scary team, like the Death said, with a team what you don't want to run into because there's so much CC. But that's why I like the Melio, Tempest, have good reactions in their draft with this one. Again, it's just going to be a very, very scrappy game.
It feels to me like if you go in against Ruddy, you're probably not coming back out. So you better commit.
Oh yeah, not even Murtrad will save you here. Not even Cleanse will save you here. That's why they've got double Cleanse on the side of Tempest. They've got the Cleanse on Zaya, and then they've got the one built in Melio's
Breath
kit.
of Life as well, yeah. So, again, we get fairly quiet. People not really looking to clown all of that much. Kusai, however, did get that lovely little ward kill, which means this wave will be enough to get him level 2. Obviously, this is the reverse of the matchup we saw in game number 2. But as we've seen, Kusai has been the one being more aggressive, has been the one finding those CS leads.
Yeah, and I can't help but to think Kusai on Syndra is going to be a lot more scary. He's always been the aggressor, no matter what the matchup, no matter what the pick. So to see him on
more
something
scary than him on Ori?
Yeah.
His shockwaves were terrifying last game.
No, but I just mean in terms of aggression, like this man has been completely in your face, no matter what pick he's been playing, and he's just going to be even more aggressive on the Syndra. I feel like Kusai wants to send a message. He has been dominant in terms of the mid lane matchup. He wants to be dominant in this game in general.
You see the tiny little bit of trading happening, but the Cozy Campfire is going to basically make it as though it didn't happen.
And perfectly touched on by the desk, this top lane matchup is so volatile. It is a skill matchup. It can go either way. And there's iterations where either champion can win at many stages in the game. So it's one of them you can watch all game long, and 1 second Jax is winning, 1 second Aatrox is winning. It goes either way.
Akers is very, very low on mana right now, so what it looks to me is that he's going to try and get this wave in and take a cheeky little reset. Has to respect the Darkened Blade. Not going to get knocked up. Yeah, we'll be able to crash this wave, take a cheeky little reset while Bear Tree recoups that CS difference.
Bit of trading in mid lane, actually coming out fairly even, just on top for Kusai. Both mid laners posturing, both junglers, I should say, posturing.
Yeah, Crisis is the one who cleared that tiny bit faster. He's looking to spot out Dunlosi. However, Dunlosi has no such qualms about going in. Kusai is going to flash. He puts Crisis under the turret. And the flash is there for the Orianna. Doesn't use it, though, as Dunlosi will knock that one down. Lock down first blood. And it's Crisis who is on the run. Dunlosi? I thought he was going to continue the chase, but Akers is on the way in. TP from Ketsuo means that Kusai is going to have to flee out of this one. So, at the very least, we'll see Crisis pick up this scuttle.
What you missed, there was a flash
catch the wave.
From Ketsuo, trying to get the finish onto Kusai.
It looked like it was still up.
Off. No, he expends it in the mid lane. Both junglers tried matching their pressure into the mid lane.
I'm going to blame the spectator client.
Use anything to blame, right? It's completely fine.
Dunlosi not going to be able to get a scuttle on this rotation at least. Both picked up by Crisis there with the assistance, with a little bit of assistance out of Jamsu. Akers, of course, a little bit down in XP, having taken that reset, has chosen not to use TP as well, so that will be up in future. Has picked up an early cull as well, so Akers very much committing to the scaling side of the Jax in this matchup.
Yeah, you got the Cheetah's recall, so there was no point TPing. You got a clean recall, able to get back to lane without spending too much. And, like you said, picked up the coal, but losing heavily on that trade.
Yeah, taking a lot of damage from that Darkened Blade as Beartree levels it up. Kusai still playing as in for those angles, looking to get that damage down onto Ketsuo right now. The junglers playing on opposite sides of the map, and it looks like the pressure that Sin and Jamsu have towards the bot side will allow Crisis to start up this first Drake of the game, which will be an Infernal.
Yeah, it should be a pretty free take for Ruddy Gaming. They are the first onto it, and they have the rotation with the bot lane being pushed in. And you can also see Dunlosi is just constantly hovering this mid lane, looking for Ketsuo at any angle. Shockwave used, so doesn't have many tools to defend himself here.
It's a little bit of a pressure shockwave there. Make sure the wave gets in. Ketsuo wanting to perhaps get a little bit of a recall in there. Jamsu also going to ensure his mid laner is nice and safe. Dunlosi going to take this time to take away a couple of camps.
What's interesting is Dunlosi went from playing Xin to Vi, so two very bruisery picks. Vi a little bit more on the aggression side, I should say. You need to see how much his ults are going to pay off.
World Ender comes out from Beartree. He's looking for the fight on towards Akers. The Grandmaster's Might will come down as well. The dodge away from Akers. He gets the finishing stack, but one more auto from Beartree will secure the kill. And that's revenge for the solo bolo in game 2.
It was a clean dodge, but he also missed out that little bit of damage what the Leap Strike would have provided. But he could not have took that third Q from Aatrox. So does end up falling down in that trade.
Crisis is now here towards the bot side. Slow lands onto Scream. They're going to try and find the chase forward. Stun lands on towards Buzzy. If they can get the stun, it would be dangerous. They are able to get on out. Warm hugs. Speeding them up, getting them out of there. Make sure they're not too slowed down by the cold.
You're very clean from Buzzy. Holding the patience, but he's...
That's the level 6 from Sin, though. Flash burned immediately. Scream now taking some damage. That is going to be the stun coming down. Immediate cleanse, but Scream dropping so low. There's one tick of Ignite left, and Jamsu, with the very last tick, secures it. Kusai needs to be careful here. Crisis is looking for him. Akers coming down as well. I think this is going to be a case of ring around the rosy for the most part. It is not going to be a situation that Kusai survives. He's got a flash, but it's mostly just a time-wasting exercise. Shockwave into the counter-strike. Kusai will be given across, and it'll be given across to Akers.
Yeah, and Akers needed that little bit of extra gold, but the action doesn't stop here.
Losi is here. Sin quite low. There needs to be a big body block from Jamsu. The flash through from Dunlosi, and the Vault Breaker will break Sin's face. Scream gets back into the lane. Jamsu is going to have to leave and leave quickly. It's going to be a big wave lost to tower.
I'm still stunned from that. I'm locked into place. I'm still buffering. Guys, like, Jamsu tried flashing to block the Vault Breaker, but Dunlosi completely outplays it and lands on Sin's jaw. Sin's jaw is still spinning after that one.
Yeah, it's spinning around his, like, spine. You know, like some kind of cartoon animation.
I would have been still just spinning on my desk. Like, I need to pick it back up.
Right now, Beartree has the shove. Has to respect, though. Immediate Glacial Prison coming down. The CC is layered nicely. The flash from Beartree is here, but it looks like he's actually quite willing to fight this one. Crisis going very low. Has to burn his own flash. Akers will get it. It requires Jamsu coming up as well, and very nearly the life of Crisis being given over. And this is the second time this is going to have happened. Sin has the ability to move away. There is the cease and desist available on Dunlosi, but he's just going to wait for Q cooldown. He knows that he can give himself that moment and will pick up another kill onto Sin. That gets him up to 3-0. Is this Dunlosi we're actually watching? Proactive early jungling? What's going on?
Could be. He's just being hyper aggressive on this fight, and I like the return to bot. As soon as he sees all the pressures on top side, he says, you know what, Sin? You're playing in a mobile AD carry. Have fun playing League of Legends, my friend.
Yeah, and it was Ruddy that opted into the Ashe up against this Xayah. Could Vi be the answer? I mean, Cease and Desist can go through Enchanted Crystal Arrow. Very mobile. Very hard to kite away from. Right now, it seems to be looking pretty good. Jamsu, though, looking for Scream. Glacial Fissure comes out, but the flash from Scream will be committed. Mackers still trading with Bertree. Bertree very much coming out ahead in these trades right now, though.
He is indeed. He's looking very, very strong in those trades. And the bot lane play, they got 2 summoners for their actions ready, but...
That's not hitting the tower.
It's not hitting the tower at all. That is a big F.
Good positioning again from Dunlosi. Prevents Shelly from getting put down.
Yeah, it's just back to again to just Dunlosi being so proactive in this game. He's been everywhere he needs to be, and even been around bot just to protect his bot. And it's at the stage where he knows he doesn't need to go top. With Bertree nearly pulling off the shy moment and trying to get a 1v3, he knows he has the potential to just sit there all on his own and be completely okay.
Right now, we see the teams jostling for priority over this Mountain Drake ahead of ourselves spawning onto a rift. Dunlosi looking for the angle in, goes in without Kusai's assistance. The stun gonna come down. Glacial Prison gonna drop as well. Aka's TP's in, won't get anything from the play as Crisis punishes the Vi dearly.
I mean, I guess we praised Dunlosi too soon because there was no follow-up ever going to come on that play. Kusai has already pathed the long way round, so...
I have to assume that he goes on to Ketsuo because once he sees Crisis, he's like, oh, well crap, I'm not getting out of this.
Yeah.
He didn't have flash up.
As soon as he queued over the wall and just got himself in that trap scenario, he was like, okay, I guess I just tried to kill Ketsuo because that's all I've got left.
Not able to do it, though, as we find ourselves 4-4. Gold lead? What gold lead? There basically isn't one. It's a tiny, insignificant for Tempest right now, especially since Ruddy does have those 2 Drakes currently in pocket. And once again, we are on to Chemtech Rift, so theoretically weakest soul, but again, we do have a lot of characters that do kind of thrive on low health percentages.
Oh, Aatrox loves this soul. He loves it every day of the week. That opportunity to get 1 or 2 more autos to keep him alive that much longer.
Oh, hi, Buzzy. Ultra Mega Fire Kick goes on forwards. Dunlosi is looking for the damage. Bertree is doing a heck of a lot of damage himself as well. Cozy Campfire will keep him vaguely safe, but Kusai is here. And there's going to be no way out for the Sejuani. 3-man Shockwave comes out from Ketsuo, but the follow-up simply isn't there. Jamsu now getting jumped on by Dunlosi. Aka's going to need to try and make his way out of this one as well, but the damage comes through. That's 2 more kills for Tempest, and just like that, the game explodes open.
Yeah, this clean take from Tempest. They got pushed back a little bit from the initial engage when they caught Buzzy out, when they caught Bertree out, but they didn't have the damage to follow up on either of these. Same goes for Ketsuo's Shockwave. And Toka not having the damage. Scream is sending a message.
He's had enough in this series. We talked about it. Let's see that top lane play again.
So they catch out Buzzy on the side, and they think it's okay because they force him back. But in the meantime, Crisis has already been obliterated by Dunlosi, and there's nothing what can follow here. There's too many low health bars, and Braum's already taken the Q to the face. Akers doesn't have anything to get out here, and a perfect stun from Syndra.
And Tempest Gaming, I said what gold lead? That one, they said in reply. They're now sitting around 2.5, working on a 3k gold advantage. Akers and Betry still trading. Again, see the junglers top lane. Glacial Prison lands, but the jump forwards from Dunlosi is huge. The healing out of Bear Tree, possibly too much to deal with. Akers dropping lower and lower, and the Darkened Blade will find him. Dunlosi goes beneath the turret briefly, but there's no real follow-up onto Crisis.
And can we talk about that Vi damage? Soon as the Wallbreaker hit Akers lost half his health bar within a second.
Yeah, that'll happen. That'll happen with Divine Sundra completed. You know, it's not like he's 6-1 or anything, as Crisis is going to be the next target of the Tempest aggression. They are truly exploding this game through this early mid-game advantages. Scream might be in some trouble. Doesn't actually hit the Feather Storm, looking to actually open up. Now going to drop that Feather Storm. The root does land onto Sin. One more auto, one more anything. The stun will land out from Jamsu. The flash from Scream. Kusai might just find Sin. He's looking for it as Buzzy is on the way to Ultra Mega Fire Kick. Not going to find it. The volley comes out. Kusai still chasing. Buzzy still chasing. Sin flashes out. Jamsu is going to have to give his life here. But in comes Ketsuo with the shockwave. Buzzy now trying to flash out the Chemtech Rift. The empowered blast cone will catapult the Milio to safety. And Ruddy, they're still fighting, even though they are down.
And you wouldn't believe it, but Kusai is 0-3 in this game, by the way. He is not getting much done in terms of getting his own kills, but he's still getting them assists around the map, but he is picked off by Ketsuo here. Is this the Ketsuo redemption angle from last game?
Maybe. As for Kusai, sometimes you're the beneficiary, sometimes you're the benefactor, and in this game it does feel like Kusai is doing quite a lot in that second category as Bear Tree is getting jumped on again. World Ender gonna be used. Glacial Prison misses. The healing is immense. He is staying alive for so long. It won't matter in the grand scheme of things, though. Akers will pick up his third kill as Ruddy continue punching down on Bear Tree.
Some important picks to get themselves back into the game. The main one they need to keep their eyes on is this Vi. Has shut down Bounty as well on top of them. I have to feel like unless he left last game and chugged like 6 Red Bulls, because this man just has been beyond hyper in this game. He's been everywhere, anywhere. Can he be enough? This is the big question.
To be the difference maker, he's 2.5k up onto Crisis right now. Ruddy will not be getting their soul point right here. Tempest pick up that Drake. However, across the map, Akers will also be able to knock down that tier 1 turret. They are still down in towers, of course. Top and bot both gone for the side of Ruddy, and it may well be a third very shortly as Shirley gets dropped into the mid lane. With Scream present, yeah, that tower's not long for this world.
Yeah, opening up the mid lane is very, very important here. I like what they did here. Interesting, the bot trades are still going neck and neck. Shockwave used on the wave.
Again, the Shockwave wave clear. Ketsuo, you are not getting out of this one, my man. 4 members of Tempest close in. They're trying to get the TP out. Happy B is not happy for very long as he gets melted by the unleashed power of Kusai. In the meantime, it looks like Tempest may even look for further engage. We see the 3-man unit of Ruddy. Gonna make themselves scarce from the mid lane.
I can't lie,
Brackish. I feel like
Ketsuo is out to wind me up a little bit because the man keeps using important cooldowns when he's dead to rights. Like he's not getting out with TP no matter what there, and loses such an important cooldown, especially when you need it for these objectives. Granted, Dragon isn't around for 3 minutes 30. But Tempest can turn their attention towards that top side of the map with the Baron spawning.
Yeah. Arrow goes wide. It's a bit of a Crownie's Comet angle. Baron coming up very, very shortly. Right now, at least, it feels that Ruddy are not in the best spot to fight. You see across the board that Tempest are quite a ways ahead in terms of items. Second item completed for Scream, whereas Sin only got that Hearthbound Axe right now. That said, Ketsuo, that little bit ahead on Takusai, as we were saying.
Yeah, just a little bit ahead, but it's not been too much as of yet. They've both been fighting neck and neck in terms of trading. There's been no one coming out on top, but the Losi will be the benefactor.
He's showing bot lane. He is showing bot lane. This could be a potential Baron angle for Ruddy as Ketsuo looks for the damage onto Kusai. One more auto. He will take the trade in the 2v1, and the rest of Ruddy are looking to start off the Baron. Actually, Sin is still in mid lane here. Glacial Prison, Glacial Fissure used. Bear Tree is on the run, but the stuns are coming through. The healing is good, but it may just not be good enough. Akers gets pulled back. The flash from Buzzy to get away from the enchanted crystal arrow. Ruddy are not able to look for the Baron. They will, still be pretty okay with that 1-for-1 trade.
And it's mad that Tempest get out of this without losing a single man. They got CC'd up to high heaven. Like, there was so much CC, so much slows.
They put all the damage on Bear Tree. All the damage went onto Bear Tree. And he just heals right through it.
Yeah, with Emilio boosted healing as well, it just backs him up entirely, and it just makes him that much more difficult. Where's the heal to kill. Okay, I need anti-healing.
I see a Bramble Vest. That's not going to do it.
Akers not going to do it. Akers is not long for this world.
This seems... You know what? I think I've seen this before, although it wasn't a Jax last time.
Yeah, this is very similar to how Ruddy lost game 2, with just people getting picked in side lanes again and again and again. And that's just happened 3 times now. Like, Ruddy need to clear on what they want to do with this game, because you cannot be pushing these side lanes like this.
You can't be engaging onto Kusai like that. He TPs back into the bot lane. He's going to continue heavily shoving those waves in. Buzzy gets caught by the damage, and no Breath of Life is going to save you from that situation. Scream looking to go forwards, putting a lot of damage into the frontline members of Ruddy, who find themselves caught between the hammer and the anvil. Jansu flashes out. Dunlosi will chase. Akers has to flee out of there. Ketsuo ain't going nowhere. And that's a double kill for Kusai. And he may have had a quieter early game, but this Syndra is coming to life.
On top of that, there was about 10 feathers behind Crisis. So Crisis just got absolutely obliterated on the pullback. Scream is doing work this game. His score doesn't tell you it. Scream has been putting out serious damage.
Does not do it justice at all. And Tempest Gaming, not only will they get the Baron, Kusai, as a show of force, will also find the pick onto Akers in the mid lane. We were talking about gold leads and how they didn't matter. No, not this time. Not this time, Rail.
It's looking like not this time indeed. It's looking a lot cleaner from Tempest, despite some of the errors in early game, but they've rectified it in a big way. And just, again, what a game from Dunlosi this has been. This Vi has been very monumental for this game.
Absolutely has. Tempest leveraging the immense pressure once again. And, well, I don't think there's a Drake Ruddy is going to be feeling comfortable stepping up to in the next 5-10 minutes. I mean, obviously, if things go the way they are currently, then around 10 minutes time is when they'll have to step up to a Drake. Oh god, can you imagine? Walk with me here. A Chemtech Soul with 4 Chemtech Drakes on an Aatrox.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely disgusting, because Aatrox already lives long enough with Buzzy's help. Pair that up with Chemtech Soul, the man will not die.
And the engage has happened in the mid lane. Ketsuo not here, is looking for the recall. Dunlosi going very, very deep here. Sin is able to find some of the damage, but Bear Tree comes on in, finds 2 with a single Darkened Blade, and there's 5 members of Tempest inside the base of Ruddy. It's Ketsuo and Sin against the world as the turrets crumble. Tempest Gaming may have just had enough, but Ketsuo finds Kusai. He steps too far forwards, and that may blunt the aggression. Ketsuo, Sin, they're able to clear out the waves pretty decently. Unless Tempest can find another hard engage, they may have to give this one up. There are TPs available. There are not TPs available. Shut up, Rakish. Really survived, though.
And with not having their wave clear, they lose the complete mid-wave. They're able to just escort this Baron wave in. There's no wave clear here. You can't clear this, so they can go for the full aggression. They find Sin, force his flash, can't connect on him any further, so they just take whoever they can find, and that is literally the support in the jungle and Akers on the backside.
And Jamsu was able to do a fantastic job protecting Sin in that fight. This Ashe has now hit those critical 2 items, but then we look across at Scream, who has already completed the Lord Dominic's regards. Akers looking kind of tanky. Not so much now. Yeah.
And
Crisis.
honestly, I
kind of tanky.
I feel like
so
we've
much
been
now.
in this situation before with Ruddy of Ketsuo being in the wrong place at the wrong time. He just needs to be with his team.
Oh, don't know how I feel about this one, Chief. Tempest come over the wall. The flash out from Akers. They were looking for a pick again towards Bear Tree. But Tempest read them like a book. They're now 10k in the lead. Kusai is TPing in, and as a full 5-man stack, they're going to look to break open the last remaining inhibitor. Akers spot out on the side. Sin.
They can't.
Yeah,
stop
Sin and
this
Ketsuo are
push.
catching other waves.
Like,
There's
this
going to be
tower
absolutely
is
nothing.
gone.
And there's the 2-man scatter of the week. Akers has to jump out. Jamsu will follow as the tower is getting demolished by Scream. The damage now coming out. Shockwave lands onto 2. Glacial Prison as well. Dunlosi dropping low. There is a lot of healing coming out, though, as Dunlosi looks for the backline. He looks for Ketsuo. The remaining members of Ruddy, they're looking to fight. Akers, it may be his moment. Featherstorm comes out. Sin gets caught with the infernal chains, and Bear Tree will drag him down as Tempest. They lose nobody. They are shoving on in. They want to put an end to this. Silence the haters, the doubters, those who thought they would fall as Bear Tree walks forwards, still hungry for yet more blood. Kusai, Dunlosi, Scream, they're knocking on the doors of the fountain for these extra kills, and they will end the series. They will knock Ruddy down to the lower bracket. It was valiant. It was heroic even from Ruddy, but today, Rail, it is just not enough.
It's just not their day in the end. Rud ends up in the mud. It's just not going the way they wanted it to. And there's just too many times in that game where Ketsuo is not where he needs to be. He's not there to clear waves. He's not there to help them deal with Baron. And because of that, Tempest can just walk into the base and take whatever they like.
And game 1, well, we know what happened there. Game 2, close, but then Tempest seemed to grasp hold of momentum. And I said they didn't let go of it in game 2. They didn't let go of it throughout all of game 3 as well. It started out well for them. Oh, no, actually, no, it started out slightly rough for them. Let's remember that. That Ruddy had a decent start to this game. But Dunlosi, this man that we sort of meme, doesn't really do much. He did stuff. He did stuff.
I told you, the man chugged like 6 Red Bulls before this because he was just hyper in that game. He was everywhere and was just absolutely destroying on this Vi. And I hope we get a replay of that flash Q on the bot lane because that was disgusting.
We'll leave it to the analyst desk to break that one down, but yes, fantastic performance from Dunlosi to help Tempest Gaming stay on the upper bracket run. We will throw it to a break. The analyst desk will break down that final game of the series. Don't go anywhere, there's still plenty more to work with.
Yeah. Yeah. After I get it, I reinvest. After I get it, I reinvest. People wanna talk that talk in reality. You have not seen me in action. You think the come up comes overnight. You ain't behind the scenes. Trust me, these things don't just happen. No shade to Gerald, but G's don't come easy when you tryna eat out producing and rapping. I read that contract you sent me to sign, but excuse me, I can't help myself, I'm just laughing. Hey, you tryna cut out a piece of my pie, and I asked you politely, what's it that you offer me? Yeah, I produce all my own beats, and I have no intention of losing my publisher. Yeah, independent individual, boy, I've been eating off passive residuals. Yeah, let's be professional. Thanks for your time, but I had to decline at that principle. I've been scheming up a plan, hey. I've been saving all I can, hey. You could call me David Ramsey. The way I handle these bands, hey. We ain't messing with the old model. New era, new kid, we full throttle. Just know that the come up is not a flaw. My amigos, they focus, know what to do. After I get it, I reinvest. After I get it, I reinvest. After I get it, I reinvest. Stack and put it back in it. After I get it, I reinvest. After I get it, I reinvest. After I get it, I reinvest. Stack and put it back in it.
Yo, look, I ain't saying that I'm rich, cause if I'm honest, I've never been. But when I look at all these other kids, I feel just a little bit ahead of them. You should know the business is competitive. There's a lot of people that I'm better than. Even veterans ain't got the knowledge I do. I've been reinvesting all I ever spent. Stop pretending like you poppin'. Who been out here making profit? Told my mama that I got this. I wonder if she noticed what my job is. I don't know how I'ma make it, but I know no matter what, I'm finna find a way. All my homies finna eat and I ain't letting no one on my team look at an empty plate. Yeah. Went from a boy to a man, ayy. Every day been making plans, ayy. They don't really understand, ayy. Gotta look out for the family. I won't fall for any scam, yeah. Only worry about the fans, yeah. I won't compromise the brand, yeah. I've been saving up the bands, whoa.
After I get it, I reinvest. After I get it, I reinvest. After I get it, I reinvest. Stack and put it back in it. After I get it, I reinvest. After I get it, I reinvest. After I get it, I reinvest. Stack and put it back in it. Spending money in some really funny ways, man. I promise you, man, really getting paid. Yeah, show a couple bands flexing on the Instagram, and nobody getting fans that way. Yeah, well, you really dumb if you spending all your funds on some clothes and your tape need work. Yeah, you ain't gonna stand if you ain't a businessman, man. I promise you, the plan ain't gonna work. Yeah, rappers spending money in some really funny ways, man. I promise you, man, really getting paid. Yeah, show a couple bands flexing on the Instagram, and nobody getting fans that way. Yeah, well, you really dumb if you spending all your funds on some clothes and your tape need work. Yeah, you ain't gonna stand if you ain't a businessman, man. I promise you, the plan ain't gonna work. Yeah.
It's almost like nothing changed, isn't it? It's almost like we're back to week 2. Just like that, Tempest turn it on and drop a 25-minute slammer. After that series, crazy that they still have that much form to pull out. But it seems like we were talking about, you know, Scream probably didn't enjoy that first game. He's going to step back up, and he did. Dunlosey didn't have a lot of fun in that game too, and he absolutely did. They were mad. They were angry, and they were very much on form in that last game. Ruddy collapsing under that pressure. So sadly, they will not be able to topple the Giants just yet. Bloxer, give us your raw reaction here on Tempest taking that to 2-1 and Ruddy's performance on the day as well.
That was a very Tempest win, that last one. That's what we're expecting out of Tempest. I think the Ruddy deserves a lot of credit for the way that they played during the early stages of this series, they really pulled it out of the bag in game 1, and in game 2 they made it super competitive. But I think that Sinji's going to have more to say about this, but it's about going the distance with Tempest. If you can pull it out of the bag for one game, sure, but we're in best ofs now. It's not the best of ones that we were in before. Like, you have to have this for multiple games throughout a series, and Ruddy just didn't have the stamina this time around. Still, I think there's a lot of positives to take away, and for the next team facing Tempest, there's a lot to take away that's good too, but it feels bad that last one was just such a stomping.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I think I very much agree with what you said about stamina, and I think that we can see right here this game just being so dominant, but we liked the drafting strategies that Ruddy were using all day, right? We thought they had great answers, especially in the bot lane, for what Tempest were doing, and Tempest seemed to be playing with a fairly rigid idea of what they wanted to do, and it's still, I think my mind is still pretty much on that level. I don't think they showed us anything super crazy. I think that Ruddy came in with a good strategy, and it really was just a lack of kind of constitution that couldn't take them to the end against Tempest. And Synergy, I don't know if you agree, or if you have any other thoughts about just the way that Ruddy particularly prepared for this series, and if you think that, you know, this might highlight a potential flaw that other teams like Venomcrest could exploit later down the line.
Yeah, for sure. I think something I said between games like 1 and 2, I was like, I think if Tempest win game 2 now, like, they will take the third game. And my reason was kind of, as Blocks alluded to, is that yes, Ruddy pushed them in game 1, and that was like probably the best performance all season we've seen from Ruddy. Like, it was clinical, it was well played, well executed. Yeah, it was scrappy, but that's their style, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Kind of the going the distance part, yeah. Like, Tempest have gone the distance all through the regular split, only obviously dropped that one game. We were obviously then a bit shocked that they lose the first game, but then they come back in game 2 and kind of pull it out the bag. They never really lost any gold lead. They're always there with their opponents regardless. So you could always expect them to be kind of evenish in gold. And then in this last game, it was like, oh yeah, so actually we've got a good 5 minutes. Yeah, sorry, you guys are done. Our 2k gold lead is now 8k. You know.
Yeah. Even in kills, 5k up in gold. That's the Tempest special. But a particular player that we need to highlight from this last game is Dunlosi. Let's get the player spotlight up here, and Block, so you can tell us a little bit more about this Vive performance. From minute 1, this guy was everywhere.
It was a really impressive performance out of Dunlosi. Like you said, that game 2 felt pretty bad. It just never really got rolling. Definitely not the case in this third game. Dunlosi managed to get things started pretty much immediately, and was just everywhere, managing to execute people. I think by 5 minutes was up by like 3 kills. It was a really clean performance, and the Vi is the kind of champion it's been on the edge of the meta recently. It's really strong in solo queue, but in terms of team play, it doesn't always give you what you need, because you don't have that kind of tankiness a lot of the time that junglers have, that junglers need in this current meta. You have to get ahead early, but Dunlosi did exactly that, managed to just pop off during the early stages of the game and just keep that ball rolling, which is really hard on Vi. Sometimes in big team fights, you just don't get to play them as effectively as you need to, even if your ultimate should, in theory, be press it, you get yourself at least a kill, if not manage to turn it into a big team fight. But that's what was happening every single one. It was a really good performance.
Yeah, you can see sometimes the Vi's that they know what to do early, and later they're like, this is my target, I'm going to queue into the fight and ult them, and then go, team, over to you, lads.
Yeah.
Take it away. Yeah. But Dunlosi was getting huge value, you're absolutely right, in all stages of that game, using that champion to its absolute fullest, and earning that spotlight very much so. So, with Tempest now back on form, they move forward. 2-1. Ruddy showed that they are not unbeatable, even when they're trying. But it was not their day just now. And let's get the playoffs bracket up, and let's take a look at where this leaves us. So we have the winners final. We have Venomcrest Serpents versus Tempest Gaming. That's on the 11th. I believe that's Saturday this week. So you have to come in and tune in for that one, which is going to be an absolute banger. Absolutely right, Block. So, and then the next ones we have to look forward to. We go into the lower bracket. See Belfast Storm and Verzik. They're our first match. Going into DMG. The winner of that going into face Ruddy. So a lot of killers down there. A lot of very scary teams. And then this marquee matchup up at the top. So, Synergy, in terms of just looking at this bracket, now with the matchups we've got and the ones you can maybe predict through on the bottom side, are there any particularly exciting matchups that you're looking forward to?
I mean, honestly, I'm really looking forward to Belfast versus Verzik. I think, you know, both teams have different playstyles in that Belfast is kind of similar to Ruddy. You know, they like to scrap, they like to fight all the time. And that's something that they can take advantage of against Verzik early, because Verzik have shown to be a little bit weaker outside of Lars, in their jungle, in their bot lane. That's something Belfast Storm could abuse. However, Lars. So, that's always a factor. So it's kind of likely to be, is Lars' split pushing, say maybe we see something else. I highly doubt it, but it would be very strange to see something else. Now, is his split pushing better than, Belfast kind of early aggression and fighting? That's going to be exciting. I'd like to see potentially like Verzik versus Ruddy. If they can beat Belfast, it's like, cool, we've beaten like maybe Baby Ruddy, for example. Now you got to play the bigger boys, the adults, and see how that goes then. I think that would just be really exciting, and get to see Akkas against Lars a bit more. Obviously, can't not say Tempest versus Venom Crest. That's also going to be great, but it's stacking up to be great.
Yeah, for sure. I think that we have these ideas of, we think, okay, we're really excited for this first lower bracket match. There's a great dynamic there, and then that plays really well to Ruddy match, and then there's just DMG sitting in the middle, just like, I'm going to ruin everyone's day. I'm going to ruin everyone's plans. I'm just going to throw everything out the window, and who knows what they're going to show us when that lower bracket match comes around. But I guess just before we wrap up here, Black Bloxer, same question. We've had some talk about these matchups. Which of these ones do you think highlights for you the absolute most?
It feels so boring to talk about Venom Crest
and Tempest. Yeah,
Tempest. Like that's the most
answer.
Dull opinion I could possibly hold. If I'm being like honest, that's the most interesting matchup. It's for a spot in the finals. It's huge stakes, brilliant teams who match up in a really interesting way. But you know what, you're right. Verzik and Lars, I want that storyline. Does somebody give that man the Fiora again? That's the one that I'm going to be most interested in like a kind of sick fascination way of watching a car accident kind of thing. If you give Lars that Fiora, you've made a mistake. And if you don't get Fiora as Lars, what do you do? So that one's going to be really interesting too.
Yeah, truly wild watching him get Fiora that many times. We'll see if he gets some more in that lower bracket, or if anyone will have learned anything throughout this whole split. But for now, that is going to be us wrapping up for the evening. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Project Gap, on the production for another wonderful day of the Four Nations in playoffs. So we'll be back on, I believe, Thursday for the next matchup. That'll be the lower bracket match between Verzik and Belfast. And then back on Saturday for the upper bracket finals and the next stage of the lower bracket versus DMG. So you don't want to miss that one. Plenty more Four Nations to be packed into this week. We're only, not even, halfway there. So we will see you back here through the week. Remember, as always, got to scroll down to my list of UKL socials. Follow the UKL at the UKL on Twitter. UKL.gg is the website. Discord.gg/the UKL is the Discord. At _UKL is the Instagram. And with that, have a wonderful evening, everybody. Let's roll into the highlight package.
we gonna